Now we're good to go, folks. So, like I said, I'll say an intro
Gonna
and then we
record.
shall. Yep, this will be recorded. So I'll be able to send either of you guys this video. Oh, looks like we're just about ready to roll here. I think we're live. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I think that everybody should be able to see me here. My name is Dustin Cormier, and we are joined today with some wonderful astrologers. We are doing some more cold readings today, as I like to do, folks. I'm Dustin Cormier, and this is How to Rock Astrology. Hello to everybody who's joining us live, and to everybody who's watching us after. It's very nice to see you all. I'm excited today. I've hatched an idea to bring along some of my fellow astrologers who have been doing work with me for a long time. Today we have Michael Moon. It's nice to see you, Michael.
Nice to see you. Hi, everyone.
And as well, we have Timothy Halloran from Rasa Leela Healing. Nice to see you, Timothy.
Hey, Dustin.
Very nice to have you gentlemen here. So it's a pleasure. I've as time is going on in my YouTube channel, I've been very interested in using this thing, this internet thing that is kind of being created under my feet to gather fellow astrologers together. Today in particular, it's got a two-sided sort of thing. I think I'm going to do these fundraisers probably quarterly. So I think everybody should expect to have another one of these in sometime July, where I'm going to try to bring in astrologers that I've hung out with that have been on my channel or just people in general who are doing their thing on YouTube. I'm inviting people onto my channel for the purpose of fundraising, as well as to share in the joy of our passion for consciousness, for healing, and for the science of the light known as astrology. Now, for everybody watching, I'm going to make a quick little introduction here to our fundraiser today. Now, this is the Indigenous Medicine Conservation Fund is what I have intended for us to do our fundraiser for today. Now, if I'm sharing my screen, hopefully you guys can all see this here. This is the Indigenous Medicine Conservation Fund. Now, the Indigenous Medicine Conservation Fund is something that has been sponsored and there's a lot of background work being done through MAPS. And MAPS is the Multi-disciplinary Association for Psychedelic Science. So MAPS, if anybody knows, is a well-known organization that promotes and helps to encourage the healthy proliferation of knowledge about psychedelic medicines. Now, what's amazing about the Indigenous Medicine Conservation Fund is you'll notice that there's a lot of places that are trying to, for example, peyote is extinct, not extinct, hopefully not extinct, but endangered is the word I'm looking for. So peyote is endangered, so are certain things, even ayahuasca is something that is a very important indigenous medicine. And a lot of these medicines, not just psychedelic ones, but other ones in general, are in a place of difficulty because people are over poaching them. Extractionism. Now, what's nice about the Indigenous Medicine Conservation Fund is that the people who are curating these medicines are being operated by the culture of the people who originally staffed and uh, supported this medicine and generated this medicine. Instead of just being in a laboratory where peyote is being grown and it's out of step with the procedure of the traditional people, and the indigenous medicine conservation is all about coming into right relationship with the people who have thrived with this medicine. So this is my interest with the Indigenous Medicine Fund, and this is the whole reason why I wanted to do this fundraiser. So this is our intention for today. Now, as we come along today, uh, we will receive donations, and your donations are going to go to our fundraiser. So thank you, everybody. We've already gotten a few uh, very generous little donations already. Now, for everybody watching, hi there, Dual Set, Auspice, Irene Mack, nice to see ya, Taunus Rising. We've already got a few people hanging out. Our intention today is for this donation. So if anybody does want a reading, ideally, this is my first time running this kind of thing. If you want to have a donation today, try to make a minimum donation if you can. And then we're going to pick from the list of names of people who have given a donation.
You want a reading today?
Yes. If you want a reading today, we will be receiving readings. We'll be giving readings to people who have donated some money. So, it doesn't need to be too crazy. I think the minimum is $5 that I'm aiming for here today. So everybody can keep that in mind. And I'm also glad to be sharing astrology with my fellow astrologers. For myself, I'm a tropical Vedic astrologer. Now, you two gentlemen are both in the Western sphere, although you both, as I've talked to you, you both have a understanding of the traditional Indian style that I do. What's nice is that we all do tropical astrology. I'm an Indian astrologer, a Vedic astrologer, but I apply it to the tropical measurements. So that's why it's interesting as we go through. There may be times, for example, where during the reading, I'm really big on the whole sign houses. Now, it might happen, for example, if I'm reading in a chart, I might really see something as being a sixth house energy, but one of you guys might read it as being more of a fifth house or of a seventh house kind of energy. If this is the case, I encourage you, gentlemen, to just listen to your heart and do what you do as an astrologer. I think it will be good for our audience to see the multi-layered language of astrology. We don't all, sometimes we will speak to the energy field in different ways, but it's the same energy field. And I think that that's worth us being able to share through an experience like this. Now, do you guys want to say a hello and just mention, a little bit about yourselves and before we start going on? And then after that, we'll start to pick from a list of names and we'll start going with our live donation readings today. If you
Hello.
guys, yeah, you can go ahead and go first if you like, Timothy.
Hey, everyone. Good to see you.
Wonderful. So, Timothy, would you like to say just a little about yourself and just mention your maybe your lineage of astrology, just to give us a clue to that?
Yep, I'm an evolutionary astrologer as taught by Jeffrey Wolf Green. I'm actually doing a Q&A starting within an hour from now. So in case anyone wants a reading who doesn't get one, you can join my Q&A at rosalilacommunity.com. Also run an astrology school there. So if you want to learn in-depth astrology, I recommend it.
Beautiful. Wonderful. So Timothy's going to hang out with us for this first bit, and we appreciate you having your time, Timothy. And then Timothy's got to run. So very happy to have you here, brother. And as well, we also have Michael Moon here. Now, Michael Moon, would you like to say hello and just tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hi, everyone. I'm Michael Moon. I've been doing astrology for 36 years. So, studied so many different schools. I'm just a very curious person, and I love all the different approaches. So, I can't say I stick to one school. I do my own thing, let it process through me. Probably closest to evolutionary astrology. I've studied with Stephen Forrest in the past, um, among many others. So it's about the best I can say. It's my own interpretation, but it's not, it's traditional Western, tropical, psychological, spiritual, soul-centered astrology.
Beautiful. Amazing. You know, especially these days, I think that everybody really takes, it's always nice when you can drill into something, but even all of us have got our deep, nuanced paths, but it all becomes the astrologer. It all becomes a nuanced take that every individual astrologer has. So I'm very glad to have you gentlemen here. And I should say, I pulled this together pretty quick. Had the idea to pull this together, and Timothy and Michael jumped in pretty short notice in order to do this with me. And I really appreciate you guys for doing that and for being here. Now, like I said, I think it might be wise for us today. Let's let Timothy go first. Now, how I've planned to do this is we're just going to have a carousel. And as Timothy's going, if we have any points anybody would like to make along the way, me or Michael, let's let let's let the person who's presenting let their train of thought come through. But it doesn't hurt to bounce around along the way. This is our first time kind of pulling this together, so let's have some fun with it. Now, how are you feeling, Timothy? Do you feel okay about being our first astrologer to
Yep, I
be
do
a
this
part of
all
the
the
reading?
time. So
Excellent.
again, anyone who doesn't get a reading here, my Q&A is probably going to still be ongoing when this one ends, so you're welcome to join in. But I do this once a month, do about several dozen readings, rapid fire, 10 minutes each. And yeah, I love that you're doing this, Dustin, because I actually wanted to put this on my YouTube channel starting this year, and I had like one sign up. And I think that's because people are a little intimidated to share. So I'm really glad that people are in this group, and lovely that people are participating.
Amazing. Amazing. Now, Timothy, you're doing a Q&A after this. Do you want to so what would be your YouTube handle so that people can find the work that you're doing?
Sure, I'll put that in the chat.
Perfect. And that way, if anybody's interested, you can join Timothy because he's always got a lot of these kinds of things going on. Okay, wonderful. Now, ladies and gentlemen, for those who are watching, it's nice to see you all here. Now, we have a few folks who have already donated. Now, let's keep in mind today, everybody, that we are trying to do a donation basis reading today. So if anybody is interested in having a reading, feel free now to set up a donation. It's really however much you feel like throwing in. And that way we'll be able to include you in this reading today. Now, so far we have 3 people who have donated. Now, I wonder if Skyrim Swifty is still here. As well, we've got my friend Claire Skaczynski. Nice to see you, Claire. And also Dual Set has donated some money as well. Now, you 3 are currently on our list to be chosen for the live reading today. Now, whoever does get chosen gets a reading by 3 different astrologers. Awesome. Okay, nice to have you here, Skyrim. So, the plan here, folks, is I'm going to give everybody just another minute. Keep in mind, folks, if you want to have a reading today, you have to throw in a donation. Any amount of the donation will be happy with us today. And that way, you will be able to be a part of being chosen for the donation. Now, we have, again, 3 donators so far. So these 3 people who have donated so far are people who could be chosen. Now, if you guys like, maybe Claire, Dual Set, and Skyrim, Skyrim Swifty. If you guys want, you can throw in your birth time now. Throw in your birth time, your birth date, and your birthplace. And once you throw those in, we will be able to begin having our list of people who can be chosen. Again, anybody else who wants to be a part of this, you can also throw in for a donation and possibly receive a reading. So you guys can go ahead and do that now, whenever you're ready. There's Mo. Feel free to throw in your birth time as well. Monica. So we've got 4 donators so far. And I'm very glad to see that. And now we also have our 3 names. We're just going to wait for Monica. Oh, sweet. Thank you, Monica. So Mo is somebody who is always supporting my work and my channel. And Mo has donated to our fundraiser. So thank you so much, Mo. Okay, now what do you guys say? Let's get started and let's start moving through here. We have 3 people, and this is going to be okay for the moment. And this is going to be our first reading. Now, what I usually do so that Michael and Timothy can kind of just see how I roll here, I'm pretty easy going about it. We have 3 names, and I'm going to pick these 3 names by picking a number. So, I don't know. Let's go with a funky number like 13. And I'm going to begin from the bottom, starting at Claire. So now everybody, it looks like we've gotten all the names in that we're going to take right now. So I'm going to take my number 13. I'm going to begin at the bottom, and I'm going to move through until I pick a name here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. And I got Dual Set. Our friend Dual Set from the Philippines. So Dual Set, my friend, you have been chosen as our first contestant. Congratulations. Let me know if you're still here, Dual Set. Obviously, I know you must be. And while Dual Set is getting, yeah, awesome. So Dual Set's here.
May 20th, 1990, 8:30 a.m.
You got it.
Tarlac, Philippines.
Tarlac, Philippines. That's right. Now, all 3 of us astrologers are now going to plug Dual Set's information into our individual softwares. This is usually how I roll here, is that we just get everybody to throw their info in. Now let's see. What did we have here? May 20th. 1890 at 8:30 in the morning. Now, Dual Set, my friend, I usually like to ask this to throw it out there. Not every astrologer finds it necessarily relevant, but I usually like to ask if it serves you, Dual Set. Thanks, Monica. Monica's enjoying my haircut. If it serves you, Dual Set, now is an okay time. If you feel like it, you can throw in your any pronouns that you abide by. And as well, whether you feel that you are a person who is straight or pansexual or any kind of sexual orientation. Some astrologers find that it's useful to get an idea of how you're going to operate in romance. Okay, so Dual Set is a she. Now, Eduardo Barbosa is asking, I do use the whole sign house system, but I also use cusps. And today, especially, we have 3 different astrologers, so we might all have different sets of how we use the cusps. I use Campanus cusps myself, but I'm sure that we're going to get some different ones. Now, I see there's 2 Tarlacs, but they both give pretty close data here, so... Now I'm getting...
Yeah, one of them's a city and one of them's a state.
Yeah, right. So what I'm getting here when I go to Zoom, let's see. So just to make sure that we're all on the same page here, folks, if you guys can see here, I've got about 11/16 of Cancer rising. It's a pretty happy looking Jupiter right there. Do you guys have about the same marker? Cancer rising about 11 degrees?
Yep.
Good. All right. Perfect. Now, how I plan to work this, y'all. Now, Timothy, you should be able to share using your Zoom share button. maybe I'm going to have to give you guys permission. One participant can share at a time.
I'll send a request.
Perfect.
Loving
Well
this
done.
chart.
Beautiful.
Going on.
It's nice to have Jupiter right in the ascendant there. So now what I was planning, fellas, I'm paying attention to our time. Let's take just a minute. What are your guys' initial thoughts of the chart? We'll roll because we want to give Timothy all the time that we need so that he can get ready for his next thing. Initial reactions to the chart. This is pretty free for all at the moment right now. The first thing I'm noticing is that we have a Jupiter with Chiron in the first house, and it's exalted. In Vedic astrology, we would say that a Jupiter in the first house is very happy, and being exalted is also happy. So it has what we would call very, very strong yoga power. Right away, I also see that Jupiter is not only trine the moon, but we've got a beautiful, beautiful mutual yoga happening with Jupiter being in the sign of the moon and the moon being in the sign of Jupiter. So those are two things that I just wanted to throw out there as something that I'm seeing here.
Yeah, so I'll let you guys do what you do. Just to share a little bit of my personal take, I'm really interested to help people using astrology. So I'm probably not going to focus so much on the technical. Y'all are welcome to do so. People are welcome to ask technical questions as well. But my style is to cut straight to the chase and to talk about what's going on.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Now that makes me want to say, if you have any ideas of anything that's going on with you right now.
Yes, I will need something from dual set.
Right.
To read a chart without any information from the person, we can't really give too accurate of readings.
For sure. For sure. You know, I think when we come together on a chart like this, it's nice to be able to
say feels a lot and has gone through a lot the last few years as Neptune's been going through Pisces. A lot of emotional energy going on. I'll just say that.
So Neptune's been going through Pisces, and this person has the moon there in Pisces. So I could definitely see there's probably been some interesting emotional energy moving through there for them. So if you could give us any inklings to anything that you're going through at the moment. Perfect. Thank you, dual set. So dual set's mentioned that right now she's going through experiences with her marriage, and this is bringing some emotional struggles for her. Now, I always like to say before I get into any of this stuff is that, you know, when we do astrology on a public forum like this, obviously we all know that astrology can go very deep. And that's why I often like to say, dual set, you know, thank you for giving us a little bit of information to get us started of what you're going through right now. And as we go through, thank you, dual set. So dual set, I always like to say, if there's anything that you don't want to talk about, don't ever feel obliged to. And if there is anything that you do want to talk about, we astrologers are trained to really watch what you're saying and try to focus what we're doing, as Timothy is very graciously leading the way here in the sense that we are here to have a heart-to-heart. And we're going to do our best to cater to the vibrations of the person that we are working with. But dual set, if you ever feel like you are not inclined to say anything, you can do so, and then you can get in touch with any of us astrologers if you want to go deeper in a way that's not in this public forum. But thank you for giving us a little clue to what's going on with you. Now, Timothy, my friend, we have a little bit
of... You got to take it away.
Cool. We have a little bit of kindling for you here, my friend, so why don't you go ahead and take it away, like you said.
All right. So appreciate you sharing about your marriage, dual set. I'm just taking a look at the chart for the first time here. Now, one of the most important signatures about souls born in 1990 is we have a Pluto square the moon's nodes. This in evolutionary astrology is actually some of the most important astrology in our natal chart, because Pluto square the nodes can be a trauma signature in and of itself. We also see Mercury opposite that Pluto square the nodes. So this is someone who is really learning to get into your own perspective, your own opinion, speaking your words, and being yourself. This is about coming into yourself to be yourself. Boy, this is a familiar signature. I've got the same houses, nodes, and Pluto square. Now, exciting transits that's going on is Uranus is currently going over dual sets Sun. And so that is actually beginning this summer. And there's going to be a retrograde pass. Where's my...
I'm just letting you know I've set a timer for you for 20 minutes, Timothy, but you know, that's
I'm just
going to be gone by
then.
Good.
So again, we got Uranus going over Sun. There's going to be a retrograde pass in June, and then there'll be a completing pass going on in March to April. Now, dual set, this is going to be a really important transit for you. Why? Because her Sun rules her south node in Leo. And wouldn't you know it, that's where Mars is now transiting opposite to Pluto. So guess what? Pluto is going to be transiting our moon's north node these next several years. So this Mars can even be bringing up so much from the past. And again, there's this overall signature to liberate yourself, to be who you are. Leo is about the spontaneous releasing of our own self-expression in full confidence to go to the beat of our own drum. And there's something you're bringing into this life with the Sun in Taurus ruling the south node. Taurus is treasure. It is something very known, very defined. See, with the south node and Leo in the second house, this is going to be a very defined person early on in this life who really knows who they are, what they like, and what they're all about. Now, this is where there can also be this woundedness getting thrown off by what? The family not necessarily having emotional support. That can come full circle back to what she's discussing with her marriage. We see this very distinct signature of Saturn in her seventh house of relationships. We can't see it, but this is actually the planetary south node of Saturn as well. So this is a heavy Saturn in the seventh house, someone who's going to take their roles in relationship very seriously, someone who's going to want to have a long-lasting, committed relationship. And guess what? This is where a lot of evolution is going to take place in your life dual set, because we can see her north node is ruled by Uranus right on the descendant. And this is another characteristic of those born in the late 80s, early 90s, is we're born under a Uranus-Neptune conjoinment. This is another really important signature that is not mentioned enough, because this Uranus-Neptune conjoinment in Capricorn is a collective signature. This whole soul group is here to bring in a new fundamental reality, ideology, and anchor it into this world, Capricorn. So we are essentially redefining what it means to be a human and discovering what it means to be a human. And because all of this is on dual set's descendant, this is likely to play out through the mirror of the other. It's likely to play out through relationship. Now, we also see Neptune in the seventh house of relationship, right? So what can this bring? Not necessarily seeing them for who they actually are. And this is where there's going to be so much learning, evolution, and development all through this life, because the North Node is ruled by Uranus in a balsamic conjunction to Neptune. So there's some dissolving here of whatever expectations, obligations that your parents conditioned unto you, how your parents were related. This is about deconditioning. All these planets retrograde in Capricorn is not following the beaten path. It's ripping the path straight out of the ground. This is about breaking the rules of the original conditioned experience. Whatever your mom and dad were probably in a role relationship together, you're probably like, if these were programs, computers, television screens plugged into the wall, a lot of your life is just literally unplugging all of these conditioned programs. And why is that? To come into this Neptune, which is what? Real love, real support, a real merging of souls. And throughout your life, there can be very powerful, very important souls that are coming in, whether for particular phases, particular seasons, or again, coming into this soul desire for a committed, long-lasting relationship. Whenever the moon's north node is in the 8th house, this is a part of the soul's intention for intimacy, for connection. What's very common for us South Node 2nd house souls is we can be a bit of a natural hermit, especially with Sun in the 11th Taurus ruling the South Node. Natural hermit, right? So this is someone who's learning to get into humanity, get a little bit messy, becoming more intimate. And in order to do so, what do we need? Respectful relationships with people who see us for who we are, respect us for our total life, for our total story. So this is about coming into a very deeply supportive relationship. And it makes sense to me, therefore, that Dual Set asked about her marriage because it's so connected to her soul's evolutionary journey as reflected in this signature with Jupiter Chiron. Now, I mentioned Saturn's on his own south node. This Jupiter is on his own north node. So there's this karmic gesture that you're born into, Dual Set. You're breaking out of all of these programs, expectations, obligations around relationship. So that way she can come into her skill set, her wisdom, which is going to be one of emotional intelligence with this Jupiter Chiron conjunct in Cancer. This is what I call one of the most missing and needed medicines on the planet at this particular time. And that is because the planetary north nodes of Jupiter, Saturn, and Pluto are in Cancer. Okay, so this reflects collective evolution as it takes place over tens of thousands of years. All souls have these north nodes in Cancer. All souls have these south nodes in Capricorn. Me and Dustin did a video talking about this before. You can check it out. But what this again says, having your own Jupiter conjoined his own north node is you are holding for the wisdom of the feminine, the wisdom of Cancer, which again is the most missing and needed medicine on the planet at this time, emotional intelligence, how to hold space. And I'll tell you right now, people do not know how to hold space. Even the tarot readers, the psychologists, the astrologer, holding space, just to give a really quick definition, means that we can approach someone who is in pain or suffering and we empathize, right? We feel their pain, we feel their suffering. We go in, North Node, 8th house. We go in with them. We go into a soul level contact. Again, North Node in the 8th house is learning to become a soul detective to herself and to others. So to read the deeper unconscious. So to know who people really are in their soul. Now, what we're all programmed to do via this hyper Capricorn conditioning that we've all received, because this particular signature we all have in our charts, the planetary south node of Saturn, Pluto, and Jupiter, reflecting lifetimes where we've been conditioned by military society. And Capricorn is what? Achievement orientation. How big of a statue are you going to leave to future generations? How much of an inheritance? Capricorn's very much prove it, right? And this is such a distortion. It follows us into our relationships. It follows us into our job. And it's the antithesis of holding space. Holding space means you can approach someone who's suffering or in need, and you don't need to have a cure-all. You don't need to have the resolution. You don't have to say something that's going to automatically fix them or automatically make them feel better. Why? Because that's not holding space. Typically, people who are uncomfortable with other people's negative emotions, we're trying to change them so we don't have to feel their negative emotion, is the opposite of empathy. So I'm saying this dual set to validate where there's going to be a very deeply wounding experience with Chiron conjunct Jupiter in Cancer. The wound is big, where there's been a lack of support, not quite healthy mirroring, not really being able to sink into that emotional depth and world, which you can be a master of. And what's going to be really important, therefore, is that you have a necessary spaciousness and freedom. So to honor and respect your own emotional feedback. She's a very sensitive soul with Moon in Pisces, ruling this Jupiter Cancer in this Jupiter Chiron in Cancer. So with Cancer on the ascendant too, this is about honoring your emotional instincts. As Dustin first pointed out, Jupiter on the ascendant here is going to be very intuitively and emotionally instinctual. And that's not probably going to be understood or even respected by others early in this life. But when you begin by giving that self-respect to yourself, you're honoring your story, your depth. We don't have to like the life that we've lived, but it's made us into who we are. This, again, is actually a bottom line theme that we see in Dual Set's chart because her Pluto in the fifth squares the nodes, and the resolution node is the moon's south node, which means there is a necessary revisiting of the past so she can integrate her soul's power. And ultimately, this is going to be a respecting of who she is as an individual because what? She can be a very big-hearted soul. A very loving, caring soul. And this may not have always been seen or respected in a world that does not fundamentally understand emotions, empathy, or holding emotional space. So again, partnerships is going to be really important. And this is also where so many of these dynamics are likely to repeat, right? Because our partnerships is where we project mom and dad and we go back to the past and we tell our childhoods over. There's going to be triggers. There's going to be opportunity for healing in those triggers. And one of the most important themes, therefore, is that you're working with a soul who can meet you where you are. That's going to be really important with this North Node ruled by Uranus, balsamic to Neptune, right on the descendant. And that's why I got to take a question when I'm looking at someone's chart, because even just taking one question, then we can see and it all comes together. All right. How are we doing for time?
Amazing, Timothy. So you've gone about 10 minutes in. So you're at pretty much 9 minutes left. At least of the 20 minutes that we've carved into.
So this is how my Q&As are. I will do pretty much a full reading in 10 minutes and do 36 readings in a row. So cool. Dual Set, if you have any follow-up questions, feel free to type it in the chat and I will respond to it before I take off here.
Beautiful. Now, Timothy, Dual Set, we would any word that you can say about where you're at is very helpful. Dual
no
Set
pressure
has
either.
For sure. I do want to ask you, Timothy, while we have a moment. Irene has asked, what website are you using to show the North Node and South Node of all of the different planets, including Saturn and Jupiter?
So in regards to where you're going to find online, you're going to want to look at Luna Astrology, which is a subscription-based service. That's the only affordable software that I know that can actually draw out the moon's nodes. And what I'm going to post in the chat is a link to planetary node ephemeris.
Cool.
And you can get all of the planetary node information. You can actually get the nodes for any asteroid as well, but it won't draw it out for you. It takes a little bit of nerdiness to get to it, but I'll put that in the chat.
At least that's something for those who are interested in seeing these, because as Timothy mentioned, Timothy and I did a video discussing Pluto's nodes, as well as, I love when Timothy comes in because at around the time that we're all born, Saturn's North Node, Jupiter's North Node, and Pluto's North Node are all in Cancer. So Timothy, that is a point that is always going to have some useful information to be able to break into. So it's amazing to hear you share about it, Timothy, because this is a point that you're well versed in, and I don't think I often hear it much in astrological circles.
No, it's the advanced evolutionary astrology as taught by Jeffrey Wolf Green, which is very, very few souls on the planet who have taken that system all the way.
Now, I find it's interesting that, I won't always do this, but you and I have shared your birth chart before, Timothy. Maybe I'll still ask, what I was inclined to say is to see a relationship between your chart and this person's chart. Do you often
that's
share
interesting.
Yeah. Mainly because you're a Cancer rising.
Dual Set says she's got huge information there. We'll contemplate more about all your readings. Okay, so we're good there.
Amazing.
I don't know if I need to look at my chart in Dual Set.
Oh no, that's okay, Timothy. I only wanted to say that you're also a Cancer rising, and you also have this Jupiter in the similar place. So I found it.
Oh yeah, we got a lot in common.
Right. So I thought that worked out pretty cool that this was one person who got to share with us today. But thank you, Timothy. Now, Dual Set, is mentioning a few more things. Now you got about 6 minutes from the mark that we mentioned, Timothy. I think to dual set generally seems to be in the generating the consciousness of this insecurity of the person that they've been with. Uh, Having the feeling that dual set seems to be want to be more detached from their relationship. But dual set doesn't want to end up too much like their parents. So obviously this is going to play into a little bit of the breaking generational conditioning that you mentioned, Timothy. So would you say, Timothy, that there's anything that you'd like to say with regards to this particular point? I know you've only
Nope,
got
because all of the points that I just shared answers that dynamic as well. Dual set is absolutely not going to want to be doing things like her mom and dad. Again, dual set, you are here to fundamentally break those rules and redefine what relationship even means. To teach this world how to do relationship in a world that doesn't know how to hold for love, unconditional love, Neptune, in a world where we don't know what that is. So that's why the North Node, ruled by a planet balsamic phase to Neptune, is a considerably profound placement. And again, this is in her seventh house of relationship, with Saturn
beautiful.
on the South Node in the seventh, too. So, yeah, relationships can also be really karmic. There can be souls that you've had many, many lifetimes with that you're either going to have necessary separations with, so to honor your soul's evolution, or really, really working together to form a really solid bond. It's pretty much going to be one or the other, though. If it's not solid, it's not really working. And where we are in time with this Mars-Pluto opposition is we're done with the 50% friends, the 50% parents, the 50% okay. If it's 50% okay, it's not okay.
Beautiful, Timothy. You know, you've given us a lot of kindling that me and Michael are going to be able to move forward with as we
Yeah.
continue dual sets
I'm
reading.
going to hang out as long as I can, but I'm going to catch the rest of this so I can tune into y'all. And again, it's a real pleasure to meet you, Michael. And thanks for bringing me on, Dustin.
Yep.
Really, Timothy, buddy, we appreciate it so much. And thank you so much for jumping right in and grabbing the torch and jumping in the water
I love
and
this. I hope we do more. It's great
well,
stuff.
excellent. I'm glad to hear that because you're amazing at it, pal. And I knew that we'd be able to just all flow together like this. So thank you,
Oh, yeah.
Timothy.
This is fun stuff. Thanks. Much
Awesome.
love to y'all. Take
You will
care.
always be
I would
invited,
just
buddy.
like to meet each other, just dive right in and watch each
That's it.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like
We'll
music.
catch up, Michael. Good to meet you.
other. Good to meet you too.
Cheers, Timothy. What a babe. Wonderful. So I'm very
Can you
glad
say
that
a little
we
something, or you want
uh,
to jump in?
No, I was gonna say, Michael, usually what I've been tending to plan is that each person will say their piece, and then we would have a little bit of space to kind of do a round table,
Mhm.
just organic conversation. So, Michael, do you have any thoughts about first let's have a mention about what we think of what Timothy of some of the key points that he might have made, and then we can move organically into our own pocket. So go ahead there, Michael. I'd love to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, I was trying to share this chart
Okay,
here on my screen,
so
but I don't seem to be able to do it.
so when you click share, Timothy asked for permission. So I'm sure that there's a way to do that. Let's see. All participants should be able to share. Now, when you hit share, does it give you a way to ask about
There
it?
we go.
Let's
I
see.
got it. It's just
Oh,
because I
add
had
to.
the chart minimized. It wasn't.
Perfect.
So I don't feel the need to kind of, we want to give space for other people to get readings too. So I don't want to go too deep, but I do want to add some things that really jumped out at me.
Mm-hmm.
Love Timothy's reading. I don't have any problems with it. There's
Mm-hmm.
some interesting perspectives in terms of I don't see this person as a hermit, but
Mm-hmm.
I'd be curious what she has to say about that. Um, but what is interesting to me is as an addition that really jumps out is the first thing I saw when I saw this was the moon, Mars, and Pisces so elevated and connected to the Cancer rising Jupiter, as has already been mentioned, but just the emotionality of that and the bigness of that, the empathy and it's like hard on your sleeve, and yet Chiron is there, which is like the wound.
Mm.
So this beautiful emotionality that's so sensitive and so open-hearted and yet wounded. And Cancer rising can be the opposite of being open, seeming open when it's wounded because the shell
Mm.
can come in. But
Mm.
Jupiter's there trying to push that open, and Chiron's there going, but it hurts.
Mm.
And so this dynamic that's so strong, and what Timothy added to the nodes was adds the power to that. With Saturn
Mm.
basically being roughly opposite the ascendant, creates an insecurity with this. Yet the strongest connection to the ascendant besides Jupiter is Uranus. So Uranus and Jupiter just can't take it. Like it just doesn't want to be held down. It needs to break free. And yet it can feel really insecure about that. And
Sorry about that.
especially when it comes to relationships, because of the seventh house stellium here, really the need, as Timothy said, to be oneself in relationship is super strong, but also the duty boundness of Saturn and Capricorn there to feel the need of fulfilling a role that is an old school role. And this whole idea of like, I don't want to be like my parents, but I'm being like them, and cultural conditioning versus needing Uranus to just break that open and to
Mm.
be really connected to the heart and to the pure sweetness of this sensitive emotionality. Because
Mm.
if it doesn't get, if that's not acknowledged, it can turn on itself and turn into feeling like a victim, feeling crushed down, that can turn into addictive patterns. Jupiter rising and the Pisces moon Mars, the feeling of the need to kind of fulfill this emptiness can be really strong if it's not allowed to be fully expressed.
Mm. It's interesting. I often like to say that, it's painful that Uranus needs something to break.
Yes, especially here because there's such a sensitivity. And of course, Taurus hates change. It likes to be solid, it likes to just know everything is comfortable and safe. And yet, North Node in Aquarius and this Uranus, like, there's a whole need for the soul to break through into the new, into the self. Like the South Node in Leo can really feel the need to connects to that Capricorn, the need to fulfill a role, to be safe, to be what others you think others are going to want you to be, and then use that empathy in a negative feedback way to kind of go, okay, I'm going to form myself into the perfect thing that this person might love so it can feel safe. And then that just does it's never going to work. North Node in Aquarius, it's not going to work. The Uranus on
Mm.
the South Node, it's or the Uranus on the horizon, and also Venus and Aries. The need to be oneself and to shine. The Venus is along with the moon elevated, and the need to really shine that light through. And I know earlier when I was looking at the comments, she said that there is a need for or desire to start learning about herself and esoteric things. And that moon Mars in the ninth, just that's a really strong. The moon is where we feel most comfortable, and that the need to grow, the need to move beyond one's own limitations is so strong here, and yet insecure. So it can feel like, who am I to do this? I don't want to hurt anybody. And yet the Mars is like pushing, pushing, pushing. I need to expand. I need to grow. I need
Mm.
to find myself and to be in touch with my feelings, the intuitive, um, empathetic, and improvisational energy here, being able to flow with things and move with things. When that's activated, There's such a talent there to be able to really be in the moment and express this beauty that wants to shine through. And yet such a wounding around that, like an insecurity of like, who am I to do that? It's too big. It can feel very uncomfortable, but that's what the soul wants. And
especially for a
putting all this
Cancer rising.
together right now is that Saturn and Neptune have been on that moon, just grinding it down, and just the heaviness of emotionality and the feeling of hopelessness that that can create, and yet the incredible opening spiritually that that can create. It's such a time of deep spiritual awakening that can feel like depression if it's not moving, or maybe that it's those feelings that pull one in and create the spiritual awakening, and the need to honor those feelings and to feel them, but to not sink, but to be able to just be vulnerable and allow this magic. There's a magic here that can come through.
I think that's probably part of what we're seeing with this person is that we're hearing a lot from dual set is that they are moving through an experience of coming out of, Timothy, dual set mentioned that she related to the hermit experience and that they never had a real connection with others. So now dual set is moving into this relationship consciousness, breaking through. Obviously, this is naturally a very emotional person. This person who has a lot of this water energy. And this is somebody who is coming into this relationship, emotional, watery, connecting with others kind of energy. And it's likely that this is something that, like you're saying, Michael, and we're both going to riff on it, I'm sure, that all of the Saturn, Neptune, and eclipse is happening in Pisces right at this time are really bringing this through for this person. But overall, we have here, it's kind of you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't when it comes to relationships. If this person was not moving through relationships, I think they'd be missing out on the pain, on a necessary pain. So now they're moving through relationships and they're experiencing this insecurity. They're experiencing, I don't know if I'm being truly loved by my partner. A lot of this certainly caters, like I love Timothy's reading about the all of that stuff happening in Cancer, the whole global shift towards emotional opening, towards
Mm.
coming through the heart. This person is moving through that.
I also,
And
just to finish, just to add before
mhm.
I take over, because the one last thing I wanted to mention was,
Oh, for sure, Michael. I've still given you lots of time. I just
well,
wanted to mention
there's
that.
just this strong Eris and Chiron, but especially Chiron being recently over her Venus. The wounding of relationships echoed yet again. And the
Oh
answer to
yeah.
all this, again, the clearest answer what she should do. No, none of us should tell her what to do,
Mhm.
especially with somebody that it's ultimately does have connection here. We all do, but you can
Mhm.
see it. It's when in alignment, this she is intuitive. She knows how to move from her soul when the insecurity gets out of the way. But right now, the wounding of self in relationship is really up, and the need to address this, and the need to, if she can't be herself in the relationship and is constantly just trying to hold it together through this old style Capricorn like duty boundness, that's going to not go well. If
Mhm.
the relationship can come together or get better through her really stepping into herself and not being so careful about appeasing others and being herself and can be loved for that, then the relationship is good, or it needs to blossom into a new, because
Mhm.
there's a lot of indication that newness is happening.
Mhm.
But it doesn't necessarily mean the end of a relationship. It just means she's responsible for stepping into her new power, her new sense of self.
Wonderful, Michael. You have a way of I think it's always lovely that, I should almost even say this too. Are you somebody who shares your own astrological situation? Because I know that there are parts that I know of your chart that shine in the way of relationship. So that being said, I love your suggestion that we should never tell the person what to do, but it's good for them to recognize that when you're in a relationship, you can still work through things.
The most important thing is in this particular situation that the need is for this soul to embody herself.
Hmm. Now, Michael, something that I'm thinking, and I should say, Michael, it's amazing to be doing this with you. Now, I've still got to get used to how I do this ringleader stuff. I think we're after an hour. I think that we could still do a little bit of work with dual set, and I suddenly have to go to the bathroom. And now you and me mentioned it would be good for us to just do bathroom breaks. So, do you want to do a quick bathroom thing, and then we'll come back and then finish with dual set?
Yeah, if
Uh,
you feel we need to, or move on. There's
yeah.
other people in line, I'm sure.
All right, well, I got a few things that I'd like to say about the dual set chart. Let's do a quick little break here, everybody. I'm going to do the quick one.
Shout away on the chat. Feel free.
Yes, feel
Back.
free to ask questions, and then we'll get back when we come back in just a minute, okay? All right, I'll see you guys in just a minute, and thank you guys so much for being a part of this.
So I am back, so I may as well say a few things while I'm here. Um, just-
Okay.
it's the last thing I want to say is these
Aloha.
transits that have been extremely difficult are on the way out. So there's a potential at this point for resolve, but at the same time, as was mentioned before, Uranus is coming towards the sun, which is going to be disruptive, but ultimately very empowering transit. Now, Uranus has already crept up close to the sun and moved backwards, so there's already hints of this, but don't be afraid of change. Um, the more heavy stuff is sort of on the, well, Saturn's still right on the moon, which is traditionally not the easiest transit emotionally, but it is lifting soon. So
Mm-hmm.
Uranus hitting the sun is going to be a big wake up. And I know as a Taurus don't like change, neither does Cancer rising. But change at this point is inevitable, and you can only guide it so much. You have to let life and your soul kind of allow it to happen. With Uranus transits, you can only allow. Take a look at how life, where things want to change. You don't have to blow up your life, but don't be afraid of things changing. And
Mm.
when the pressure is pushing for change, don't be a Taurus and hang on for dear life, because that creates the earthquake energy of when something is being held on too long and it needs to change, then it can really break, really be uncomfortable. Like an earthquake causes a lot of so
I
a
was
lot of,
thinking, Michael, maybe I'll give you a little bit of time to,
no, I'm
I,
done. I was
yeah.
me to come back, and I just
Good.
wanted to add that.
Beautiful. Beautiful. I'm glad that this is all working out organically in the way that I thought it would. Now, I think one of the themes we're hearing certainly, I think I like, if I can, I'm writing down notes. So I'm really trying to bring together the notes that I'm reading from everybody, from Timothy as well as Michael. Uh, Timothy made the notion that the sun is always going to be important because the sun is ruling the south node. And Timothy and Michael have both mentioned the importance that Uranus is moving and transiting through the sun. So the sun being the south node lord, an outer planet like Uranus is always really going to do some transformative shaking and awakening of any planet that it moves through. For that to be the south node lord is bound to be significant. And by my regard, at least as a tropical Vedic astrologer, the south node is in the area of the second house. So whether it's the first house or the second house, that south node in Leo is holding a root that relates to my resources, my my psychology, my erotic psyche, my feeling of abundance. So that Uranus moving through the sun is probably going to bring some real recombobulating of what it takes to feel erotically abundant, what it takes to feel grounded, solid with my own finances and my own value. That's really the Taurus thing, is my own sense of value. So Uranus moving through the sun there, it should be at this present time probably giving this deep sense of this newness in regard to the sun. Now, Michael really pointed at something that everyone in my audience is going to know the importance of, what I call sadhisati. And so sadhisati is when Saturn is moving over the natal moon. Now, uh, Vedic astrologers would say there's a really special happy thing happening between Jupiter in the first house and the moon in the ninth house. There's really a significant factor with regards to the ninth house happening in this chart. The Lord of the identity, which is the moon for a Cancer rising, the moon is the Lord of identity. And so this moon is placed in that ninth house. Regardless of the yoga, that does certainly signify that the identity is really aligning itself with what we would call dharma. And this is a role, this is a purpose, this is a true identity of what I'm doing. And there's probably a sense that I want to be identified with something bigger than myself. And it's very likely that there should be some luck with regards to this. According to this chart, there should be some luck with maybe your family, your father, your culture has given you a religious mentality, or a something to do with music or culture that you align with and that brings you some kind of joy. So when you do your work in the world, like the Sagittarius who's hitting the larger target, you're channeling something bigger than yourself with what you do. And this should play into your relationships. I would almost be inclined to think that a big part of what you're moving through with relationships, dual set, is being with a man or with a partner who respects this role that you're trying to build. As I often say, Jupiter is really a marker for what I would call the true love. All the planets can have this regard for a true love experience, but Venus is more of a passionate seventh house love. Jupiter tends to be more of a love that is built on something bigger than our passion. The example I often give is, you've got like a priest and a nun, for example. A priest and a nun, they're living together. Let's say they're Presbyterian, they sleep together. The priest wakes up out of bed and he puts his slippers on, he makes his toast on the counter, and then he goes out to he goes out to the church to talk about God. When the nun who's living with him, when she's making his bed, she's making God's bed. When she's wiping the crumbs off the counter, she's wiping the crumbs off the counter for God. Not to say that he's this God, but he's doing her dharma. She's a nun, and he is talking about God. So she's happy to be with someone who's living for her deeper purpose. Now, they might have troubles, they might bicker sometimes, they might have difficult conversations where things aren't always flowing with each other. I'm just checking my thing here. They might have sometimes some conversations where they're frustrated, they've got the cat and dog thing like all relationships do. That's a Venus thing. But it's Jupiter that holds relationships together. It's the feeling that we're living for the same purpose that really pulls things together. Now, with Saturn going through Pisces, that Michael's mentioning too, that there's a vibration of being a natural teacher here. And I'd almost like to, because the ninth house can really have some of this teaching quality, this guru quality. You as a woman might be able to just naturally express the wisdom of your culture and of the wisdom, some kind of wisdom of this spirituality. The ninth house is very metaphysical. Now, Saturn going in transit right now, there's a transit of Saturn is in Pisces, not to mention the fact that Neptune is there and the North Node is moving through there. So Saturn, the North Node, and Neptune, all transiting Pisces, is really putting a lot of pressure on this moon, which is the ruler of the chart, which is where that Chiron is. So what's happening with you in relationships, I think, is no coincidence. I think it's going to be very important for you. And there is probably a crushing experience of what relationships are to me. Now, dual set is mentioning her mom raised her. She's very religious. You look at your situation that your husband is an aspect of God, so you're serving God. He is mean. God is playing with you, testing you. Now, you've really got to be careful, dual set, because it may be the case that your husband is fulfilling a similar shared role that you want, but you still have to learn to abide by your moon. You are still the goddess. You are your own person. You are your own woman. Now, we as astrologers can't necessarily say the details. We don't know your husband. We don't know what's going on with you. We don't know if you are playing into insecurities that are unnatural. But no matter what, it is important for you in general, but especially at this time, to make sure that you are happy in this relationship. Because you might be insecure about the relationship and it might actually be a good relationship. Or it kind of sounds to me like this person is playing a role, but you might not actually be happy in your relationship with him. So it's important for you, dual set, to get in touch with yourself. What do you seek in a relationship? Because just like this nun and the priest, right? The nun is serving the priest because the priest is serving God, and that's her dharma. But she still needs to be happy with him. She needs to feel like my jiva, my soul, my human experience still gets something out of this relationship. Because truth be told, you can find your dharma with more than just the man that you're with. Now, we don't know how long you've been with him. Saturn will be retrograde again. I hope it will not be bothered anymore. So you hate it when he is suspicious as well. Now, dual set, this is while Saturn goes over the moon, Saturn's putting pressure on whatever it touches. The moon is a primary relationship planet, but what's special about the moon is it's a self planet, even more than a relationship planet. Venus is the true relationship planet. We kind of got to let things go. Like you got happy wife, happy life. You got to sacrifice things with Venus. The moon is an adaptation planet, which means the only way you're going to make peace in any relationship is finding out what you seek in a relationship, talking with friends about it, possibly even seeking some kind of, a relationship therapist or another friend who can just break you out of your unknowns. There might be things about your husband that you question, but you don't want to question directly with your husband. You should communicate about everything as much as you can. So I obviously I don't know if he's your husband or not, but with the partner that you're with, be as open with your partner as you can about these questions and talk with either friends or your mother, sisters, cousins, or some kind of relationship counselor to A, give you you know, a bit of reflection on whether you're overthinking things, or B, you might say something to a relationship therapist and they say, whoa, that's actually a little bit messed up. So, even going beyond astrology and getting this kind of relationship, because this is what you've asked about right from the beginning, as an astrologer, I would say, so this person was cheated on before and that broke his ego. And so obviously he feels like you're cheating on him. And that seems to be what you even mentioned at the beginning. I just want to quickly go over this in my brain. So this is something that you need to work out as a moon function. What do I want as the goddess in my relationship? You're nobody's slave, you're nobody's servant. You have to have happiness. The woman needs to have happiness in order for the household, for the relationship to have happiness. They both need to have happiness. And so I think this, as an astrologer, not only is this moon stuff important for Cancer rising, always in general, but also Saturn with all this sati sati stuff happening, with Saturn going over your moon. I think it's no coincidence that this is what you asked about when you were prompted to make a question. And I think that this relationship theme opening up is the probably the most key thing that you could be working on at this time. Now, this is something I wanted to just sort of bring everything together with all three of the astrologers that we've been talking about here is some self-realization with your relationship nature, what you need to be happy, how you can communicate with your partner. I think that this is a very important point to bring home overall. Now, Michael, my friend, do you have any other thoughts about what we've kind of brought together here for this person?
Only the direct answer that I can give in this moment is I do feel this specific issue around not being trusted is going to be very connected to that Moon, Mars, Pisces, Neptune opposite the horizon conglomeration that's being so affected at this time. And that in any relationship, especially with that all that Uranus, Neptune, Saturn in the seventh, is there's something in this that's mirroring
Mm.
in Dulcet's psyche that lack of maybe being herself and trying so hard to be something for the relationship that even though this other person's inaccurately blaming you when there's a relationship thing like that, all you can do is work on yourself. You can't force anything on somebody else. And so the more honest she can be with herself and her needs and what's important for her, the more that energy can shift. And the self-compassion here is super important. I would even suggest Ho'oponopono if anybody's if you're familiar with that, look it up maybe. This idea of really having compassion for
Mm.
seeds of the suffering within oneself, but not being a victim. And this is the most important thing with this point in your life, Dulce. You don't want to fall into a kind of victim place where you're kind of taking on this heavy energy and just swallowing it. You need to be empowered, not as a victim or martyr or perpetrator, just simply expanding your energy to be more you and just seeing how that affects your life and your relationship. Keeping the communication as open as possible. You have Mercury is exactly conjunct the point of fortune in the chart. Um, Communication is super important here. And there's a real teaching in all this that can be a real spiritual awakening crux point, but you don't want to swallow the situation. It needs love and attention to blossom into what it's trying to be. So that's really what I want to add.
Beautiful.
So much more we can talk about, but there's so much we can get into in this situation. So I send my love to you, and I know you can do it. You are a very loving being. That
Beautiful, Michael. I really have a lot of good faith with this chart. It's particularly for me, it's the wonderful yoga happening between Jupiter and the moon. This relationship stuff is an important lesson. And I think Ho'oponopono, I believe that's a Hawaiian
Polynesian,
phrase.
yeah.
Polynesian. And it relates to, I believe, I forgive myself, I forgive the other. Would you know the translation of it there, Michael?
Yeah, so it's evolved over time, but it's basically the practice of when there's suffering outside. It's very similar to the Buddhist metta meditation, where the seeds of suffering are always within. So rather than blaming a situation, it's not blaming yourself either. You just hold that place in yourself. With Ho'oponopono, you say, I'm sorry, forgive me, I love you, I thank you, to whatever seeds are causing the suffering, and just holding space and allowing the sentiments, not the words, but the sentiments of love and forgiveness into the psychic space.
Beautiful, Michael, because every astrology figure is going to be a reflection of ourselves. So dual set, I hope that you have enjoyed this. Amazing. And dual set, in our comments, dual set has been very receptive, very reflective. Dual set, you've been a great contender in our show here today. You've been giving us lots of comments about what you're moving through. I'm so glad to see that you've been enjoying this. Now, Dual Set has said, I will be doing that in my meditation. Thank you again, Michael. Beautiful. It's the best thing we can ask for. One thing that's nice about having a good Jupiter, which I very much think this is a good Jupiter, is that you can always pick up something joyous to apply to yourself. Jupiter is really, Venus teaches with knowledge, Jupiter teaches with experience. You know, Often I know a lot of people, amazing dual set. I'm glad that you enjoyed this. A lot of people who have lots of Jupiter energy, I know lots of Sagittarius risings. And when they're trying to explain something, they say it's this. If you have a Sagittarius rising musician, they'll explain the theory and then they'll go, yeah, so it's this. And then they'll do and then they'll show it. Like this is the thing. So when you have a good Jupiter, it's nice. Usually someone will take something out of a lesson, a counseling session, something to try in their heart and feel out. And so it looks like Dual Set is at least taking something to try with their meditation. I'm very glad to hear that we can provide some feedback and some space for growth.
And there's a lot of luck with Jupiter around receiving teachers. And what
Right.
is luck? But luck is the faith that their life is a lesson. And so being able to be open to learning. And that's why I kind of mentioned the comments earlier, like you're a natural teacher. All of this experience of life, the moon and the night, the experience of feeling all this stuff is going to come back as you're teaching something from the heart. you're also very creative. There's a musical quality, there's a sensitive quality, there's a counseling quality. You're here to share, to learn, to grow, and to be part of that for others. That Chiron Jupiter on the ascendant, super powerful, beautiful, sometimes uncomfortable, but ultimately always comes back in a positive way, I feel.
I think that this person might be a teacher of cracking through to the heart. By through the pain that dual set goes through, of the pain of cracking through to the heart, I think she might radiate the importance of that. Painful though it might be, she might radiate the oyster inside of all of us by cracking through that shell. And it's amazing to see that. And Dual Set has just given us a little bit more money for our donation today. We really appreciate it. And I'm very certain that the providers of the Indigenous Medicine Conservation Fund appreciate it very much as well. So thank you, everybody. Let's give Dual Set a nice little round of applause. Dual Set, you've been a wonderful contestant on the show. And thank you very much to Michael Moon for hanging out with us here today. And also, let's also give a thanks to Timothy Halloran from Rosalila Healing. Timothy Halloran is rock and roll. He came in and really rocked his thing. Now, it's currently at the present time for us, we're an hour and a half in. I expected that this would go this way. For each of these, I'm given about 3 hours, for each of these sessions that we do. In the sense, we started at 10 o'clock today, EST. It's now 11:30 EST. So now what I'm thinking, Michael, we've done our first contestant for the day.
Jump right in. Let's do a few more.
Cool. Amazing. And I like the deep dive like this. We could do like 5 people shorter, but it feels pretty organic for us to be able to teach deeper astrology by, we might be okay with doing 2. This will be our second session for the day.
Start with 1, and then we'll just see how it goes.
We'll see how it goes. Love it, Michael. You got the right attitude, buddy. All right, everybody. Now, for those who are currently watching, this is our live session today. Now, we had already some people who have donated. Now, I'd like to mention again that today, let's mention it while we're here. We currently have a few people who are still watching. Now, it is what it is. Yeah, let me say this first. Now, today we are sharing about the Indigenous Conservation Fund. And this is our fundraiser for today. The Indigenous Medicine Conservation Fund is a fund that is sponsored and was helped to be created by MAPS. That's MAPS. It's the Multi-disciplinary Association for Psychedelic Medicines. Now, you can always check out the website by just going IMC.Fund. And what you'll find here is this is the website, and it tells a little bit about what this fund is all about. To really bring it together, this is an Indigenous-led philanthropic vehicle that's working to ensure the resilience of their peoples in the face of cultural appropriation, environmental extractivism, which means, for example, I'm very, the peyote plant and the spirit of peyote, which is mescalito, has been a very important part of my life. And I have been involved in getting, certain things from people who are not continuing to cultivate the plant. Us Westerners, we love to receive the medicine, but it's easy to forget the roots of where this medicine is supposed to come from. I'm kind of trying to find a way to rejuvenate what I've taken from the earth by doing this fund. It's also very much just a part of my Jupiter. But this is what we mean by environmental extractivism, is that where these medicines are coming from, they're being overcropped and over-harvested because of interest from people from all over the world. The Indigenous Medicine Conservation Fund is intended, through right action and through right understanding, to bring the people who cultivate these medicines a sustainable agriculture, a sustainable economy, so that they can do what their indigenous wisdom is as they've always done it. And this is where our money is going to today. I think it's a very important thing to be a part of. And thank you to everybody who has donated, and to my friends Michael Moon, as well as Timothy Halloran from Rasalila Healing, for helping to perpetuate this. I think it's very important. And this is where our donations are going today, ladies and gentlemen. So for anybody who's interested, we've got one more reading today. And I'd like to see who is still here amongst the original 3 that have donated. We at first had somebody named Skyrim Swifty.
I can add, I think we should just see who donated in general and pick from that list.
Yep, that's right. You got it, Michael. That's what I'm intending here as well. So we had Skyrim Swifty, who donated originally. And we also had my friend Claire Skaczynski, who also, oh, amazing. Skyrim is still here. Now, I wonder if my friend Claire Skaczynski is still here. And as well, for everybody watching, the reason we're bringing up these names is because Skyrim Swifty, as well as Claire Skaczynski, have donated to our cause today. Amazing. Claire's still here as well. Now, if anybody else is interested in getting a reading from Michael and I, and the way that we just did, feel free to donate now. You can donate pretty much any amount, and we'll put your name into the list. It is for the cause that we've just described. So any money going in is going to be very helpful to us and for the cause that we're doing today. Now, if we don't get any other extra names, then thankfully we still have our 2 amazing contestants who have been watching us the whole time, and whose names we are now going to pick out of the litter here. So if nobody else is interested in going further here, now Skyrim and Claire, how about I'm going to pick between the 2 of you. We're going to pick a number just like we usually do. And then you guys can restate your birth time and birthplace and birth date. So let's rock and roll here. I'm going to see if I've got everything figured out here. Between Skyrim and Claire, again, last call for anybody who wants to still be a part of this. You can throw in a donation, and we will include your name in choosing who gets chosen next for this live reading. For now, it looks like we've got our 2 contestants. We've got Skyrim and we've got Claire. So I'm going to now pick a number. Let's say I'm going to go 17 today. And I'm going to begin at the top this time. Now, Irene, now that I think about it, Irene, honey, you got money for Tim to read the chart. Now, Irene, did you happen to donate earlier? Because somebody did donate earlier. So Irene, I almost feel like I should be including you in this. Let me know if you have put money into the donation today. Because if you did, then you can certainly be chosen for this as well. Although, I know that you were also interested in getting the Timothy reading as well. So let me know, Irene. I know you're usually pretty good at letting me know things like that. Because Irene, if you did throw in money, then you should be in this list as well. You did donate. I thought so. So Irene, honey, I almost feel bad because we didn't give you a chance on the first one. Yeah, you must have thrown it in at the beginning, and now I know that. So now I've got that makes sense. What I've got to do is next time I do this, I've got to make sure if anybody is here, if they already donated, to mention themselves. So Irene, I'm going to include you in this number picking here. Amazing, Irene. So thank you for donating. Now let's go. I'm going to pick between the three names that we have here. And I'm going to pick a number between, let's say, I'm going to pick 17. And I'm going to begin at the top, starting at Skyrim Swifty. Okay, and Irene, you're going to be included in this. So I'm going to pick, but I'm going to go through these three names now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. So I got Claire Skaczynski. Claire Skaczynski, my friend, you have been chosen. Thank you for everybody who has donated. And like me and Michael were saying, you know, we're gonna flow through this, and we're gonna see if we're gonna do a third reading after this. And thank you to everybody who's hanging out here. Now, Claire Skaczynski, my friend, you have been chosen. Why don't you do me a favor, Claire, and throw in, I know I just did your birth reading for you a little bit ago. Amazing. So your birthday is December 3rd, 1990. Yeah, okay, Irene. Maybe we'll give you a little. We've got to see, Irene, because what I'm trying to do here is to have an organic experience of, you know, we're gonna go with Claire, and then we'll see how much time we have at the end, Irene, to just do everything that we can in doing a reading for you at the end. But we got to go organically because, you know, I don't want to zap us as we go along. So let's go with Claire Skaczynski for the moment. Now, Michael, I'm sure you're probably reading the comments as well.
Yep.
We've got December 3rd, 1990 at 3:50 EST in Thunder Bay. Now, Claire, I wonder when you say 3:50, I'm assuming that you mean that's AM. I've probably got your chart in here anyway. So let's see here.
Yeah.
PM is actually what Claire is telling us. So, 1550 is what Claire's given us. So let me see. Claire Skaczynski. Looks like I've already got you in my, what do you call it? My roster. Now, when I am looking,
Taurus rising.
Yep, you got it. About 18 degrees of Taurus rising. Is that what you got, Michael? 1851 of Taurus rising.
I got 1848, but
Yeah, okay. Close enough. And that's Thunder Bay, Ontario.
yep.
Yeah, sometimes our softwares will be a little bit off. My software can be a little funky. Sometimes it'll be very off, and then I'll have to it's weird. I restart the program, I come back, and then it's the right one. That's why I always have to check. Yeah, it's kind of annoying.
Oh,
It's worth it because this is the best Vedic software around. But
although
everything has
that's
its glitches.
sketchy with that. That could really throw one off.
Yeah, I can. I gotta double check it all. That's all. Hasn't screwed me over yet.
Oh, look at that Pluto.
Yes, yes, yes.
And boom.
So, Michael, let's begin. Let's begin by having a little bit of an organic take, and then you and me can, we could draw straws. We can go rock, paper, scissors. Would you like to go first this time? Let me just ask you how you feel. Would you like to go first, or are you pretty easy going about it?
Easy going.
Yeah. Alrighty. So, let's see.
Tough, but it's all good.
Cool. I'm pretty usually on my head, I usually just kind of pick it. Maybe I'll go first this time, and then I'll dig through what I can, and then I'll give you some space after,
Good.
and we'll give each other a bit of space in between things. But let's begin at before I start to do my take. We'll be a little bit organic here. You mentioned that we've got a Pluto. You mentioned Pluto. Was it Pluto that you mentioned being right there
Right
on the
there on the
right there on that descendant?
degree,
Pretty much right there within.
minutes away.
That's right. So we've got Pluto in Scorpio, no less. And that is right on the descendant.
Yeah, you should have some stuff to say about that.
I know a thing or two about Scorpio and Pluto and Scorpio. So, really for me, uh, I see it's interesting that this Pluto is in Scorpio on the rising sign. And for me, as a Vedic astrologer, Mars tends to have a little bit of trouble when it's in Gemini in the second house. Mars in Gemini is in the space of Mercury, and Mars has Mercury for an enemy. So the energy of the seventh house, especially for Taurus rising will notice that Mars generally tends to rule the seventh house as well as the 12th house. For Taurus rising, there tends to be Scorpio rising is the same. Taurus almost has a similar stinger that Scorpio does, where the seventh house, which is this partnership, has the energy of the 12th house moving through it. And the 12th house is sort of the surrender. So Taurus rising likes to surrender to their partners. They like to really sacrifice. They like to really it gives them an emotional spiritual relief to surrender themselves in their partnerships or to whatever it is they're doing in the seventh house. Having Mars in Gemini shows that the surrender you would like to have might be a little bit scattered because Mars, which is usually instinctive, it goes instinctively, it's got its stinger and it goes right for what it wants to go for. Mars in Gemini has a little bit of an indication of a bit of a scatteredness. I'm not sure what it is that I want in a partner. I would love to surrender to something, but there's a possible analysis paralysis that might be happening with regards to what that Pluto in the seventh cusp is trying to move through. That is something instinctively coming to my head. Uh, it's probably also worth mentioning that the moon here, it might not be a conjunction in the Western sense, but the Vedic people would say that the moon is in the same sign as the south node, and it's with Chiron, no less, in Cancer here. So we've got another 1990 baby. We have a little bit of a signification here of similar themes of the Chiron in Cancer. Uh, with the south node there, the moon might be a little bit explosive, a little bit difficult to do its relationship thing that it wants to do. So all of this is there's indications for relationship karma that would be healthy to recognize and to possibly work out. Now, I wanted to say that and to let you, Michael, while we're still having this sort of introductory feel out, uh, what thoughts might you have about either anything I've just said or just, feel free to go by feel because I'm going to have my time after we're done this intro.
Sure. So my first thoughts when I saw it was how Claire can't get away from that Pluto as much as she would love to. Taurus rising loves the stability and the comfort and to have things nice and stable. And as you said, the Scorpio on the descendant can often cause one to sacrifice to a relationship in order to hold that stability. But and then the moon in Cancer loves that cozy feeling of safety. And yet that's where it ends. There's so much intensity of pressure to, um, that Pluto is always going to bring situations that confront the ego in order to have to really engage one's power and not be as cozy and comfortable as one likes. Now, luckily, there's the Sagittarius side that's just like, to hell with it. Like, let's just be real. So that really helps with this karmic destiny, if you will. The Sun and Sag with the point of fortune in the seventh really shows like this. we're almost seeing some kind of echoes of the last thing where there's this need to be oneself in relationship, but a it's a completely different version of it here. Um, there's kind of maybe more of a ability to do that, and yet this confrontation of relationships always kind of keeping it real. To me, Mars in the first, for me, it's in the first. So
Mhm.
um, there can be a lot of energy there, but as you say, it can get dissipated. It's opposite the sun. It's in Gemini, which is a bit scattered. The sun can be a bit scattered in Sag, so the two can burn hot and then feel um, a lack of energy, even though Mars in the first generally holds a lot of energy. Uh, and in the way I'm seeing the chart, the moon is on the cusp of the third.
Mhm.
So that really creates an echo to that Gemini Mars, where there's a lot of emotional energy, but it's also can get scattered, as you mentioned. And so, and then you've got Chiron on the south node. So there's this karmic sense of life cannot be safe. Cancer, the feeling, the need for safety, and the sort of retreat that can create, the way I'm reading it being in the fourth, yet this pull for the soul with the Saturn North Node in Capricorn, again, on that node of Saturn, making it very strong and very at the top of the chart and right on the MC, culminating,
Mhm.
is like this huge pull of, okay, things might not feel safe. They can feel scattered, but boy, do you have a destiny. And there is energy there to help you get focused and apply this energy, um, and make some stuff happen in the world and really uh, have something significant to do. And the challenge is going to be to focus. And where I see that Pluto coming in is Pluto's going to like be like, all right, bring in people to kind of push you all the time. And you can easily kind of say, all these crazy people around me are always pushing me, and I just want to be a free spirit. But no, there's like this soul challenge,
Contracts.
kind of kind of work your power in and find your strength and find your solidity and not get too like, whoa, it's all like I could do this, I could analysis paralysis you mentioned.
Mm.
So that's sort of my initial hits. That Mercury joining the Uranus Neptune, it's a little loose, but it's there. It's going to strengthen that Mercury. That Mercury is very strong with the moon. So communication is super important for this person, which does help that Mars and Gemini have a purpose. So it doesn't just get scattered. There's a that Gemini energy to communicate and to be a fierce communicator and to engage with those relationships that come in and find ways to communicate and navigate and build this energy. So those are my first thoughts. Um,
Beautiful. Beautiful, Michael. Thanks for sharing. I think that I love being able to just kind of hear what your thoughts are. It's nice when we do this organic thing before we kind of each take our step into the reading of the chart. Uh, I love your thoughts, Michael, of the emotional. I agree that there's an emotional safety and retreat. That there's a scattering of the emotions. There's almost probably a sense of emotionally retreating in this person. But at the same time, there are indications of a need to not be so retreated that you're not engaging in relationships at all. I'd say it's similar to the last person we read. It's sort of there's a damned if you do, damned if you don't energy when it comes to
I want to say in the
relationships.
comments, Irene has said this is a signature of somebody who's experiencing life as opposite sex in this lifetime. So I wonder where that's coming from, because if that's true, that definitely I could see uh, that focusing in some of this, but I want to hear from Claire. I mean, that's a pretty intense statement to make.
Yep, yep,
Um,
yep. That's interesting. Uh, I was thinking, yeah, so Irene was referring to the Cancer and Capricorn North and South node, and those being on the fourth and 10th cusp, I would say. So that's a interesting pull there, Irene. Now, Claire, my dear, if you have any, just like the last session that we did with the last person, uh, Timothy Halloran always does, he's very big on the heartfelt connection. And I think it's a good thing to lead on. So, Claire, if you have any thoughts in this moment of anything that's going on with you in your life at present, anything that you'd like to share, anything about what me and Michael have sort of dished into initially that seems relevant to you, or anything in general that you'd like to ask about while you have these two astrologers here with you. Don't feel obliged, but please feel free if you do feel like you have any questions. It'll give us a little bit of a live wire to connect our reading to. And as I always like to say, yes, Irene, I would say that's an evolutionary astrology thing to have the nodes in Cancer Capricorn as well as the fourth and 10th axis. There is a gender, there's possibilities of a past life gender, being a gender of a different thing. Now you're in a new gender in this life. That can be an indication. Now, as I always like to say, Claire, because this is a live public forum, you know, if there's anything you don't want to speak to that you don't feel comfortable talking about, you're never obliged to here. Our intention here is to give you all the healing that you can and to discuss our passion for astrology.
Claire says it resonates. I'm starting a new job very soon. It's been a culmination of more than a few years, depending on how you look at it, 5 to 10 years to get to this point. Kind of an important transition. Okay.
Amazing. Amazing. It's been a culmination of more than a few years. So this new
Yeah.
job represents this culmination.
Well,
Amazing.
the whole pandemic alignment hitting your North Node Saturn,
Hmm.
beginning of 2020, end of 2019, and through that time would have really started a whole new phase for you.
Fair. That's a great point in terms of the transit of the pandemic and all of these things that would have happened that would have sparked probably a lot of the foundation for what now is moving into the phase that Claire's coming into. So that's a Capricorn, really Capricorn energy going on there. So that new job must feel like a culmination for you. So, Michael, what do you say? We've gathered our information, and now, Claire, again, I'm going to speak to what you're talking about here. What I'm thinking is maybe we'll give each other a little bit of a timer, like we've mentioned. And Michael, if you want to ask any questions, or if you want to point anything out along the way, we're kind of having fun sharing here. Uh,
Yeah,
maybe it makes
you
sense
start
for
off
us.
doing your thing because you didn't get a chance right with the first one as much.
That's okay. That's okay. This is part of how we're going to flow with it. But thank you, Michael. Thank you. So, I even feel like going for 15.
Yeah,
That feels good.
just
That
go
feel
till it feels like you've said what you need to say.
amazing, Michael.
Although
Amazing.
maybe I shouldn't say that with a Sagittarian Mercury.
Yeah, yeah, we'll be here all day if we let me do that. But it's good to have some kind of
You
good
start. I'm going to
timekeeper.
do a quick pit stop. I'll be
Okay.
back.
Sounds good, Michael. Sounds good. So I'm gonna press my timer. My timer acts as my drummer, and I am always well served by having a drummer keeping time for me. So I got 15 minutes on my clock for the moment. Now, Claire, I have worked with you before, but for the sake of those who are watching live, it's always good for me to move through everything I would typically do in a reading. It's interesting working with Michael because there are things that stand out. Now, me and Michael have really oriented this at least the way, we both saw the Pluto on the descendant. And I think that's why we pulled this into a relationship consciousness. And Claire, I would say, you know, relationships are really a confrontation with the heart, with the soul of the individual. And I would usually typically say that anybody with the South Node and North Node in a female axis, which is Cancer and Capricorn, are both considered yin. The fire and air signs tend to be the yang. It's what we do. Earth and water tend to have more to do with the yin. The yin. I don't know if I said that right. Fire and air are yang with what we do. Earth and water are more yin. And so this has to more to do with what we are. Earth and water signs are more moon, lunar experiences. It's what I experience. It's what I have around me. So having the nodes operating in a water and earth axis does signify importance with regards to the emotional world. And this ties into everything we've talked about with Pluto in the seventh, with the moon in Chiron being conjunct the South Node in Cancer. So it really takes on more of this relationship energy. Now, another key dimension of the relationship energy, I'd say here, is the axis of the South Node in the fourth house with the North Node in the 10th house. Tropical Vedic astrologers would say that there's really a third house energy in this South Node as well as a fourth house energy. The fourth house comes from the fact that the fourth house cusp is falling at the end of Cancer there. So that's why, for me, there's a real fourth house energy going on with this South Node. Now, it's interesting that Claire has mentioned, of all the things that Claire could be speaking to as we've been moving through this, Claire has mentioned career. And it's interesting. You'll often find that people who are dealing with the fourth house are always going to have some kind of interweaving of the 10th house of the career. It's very possible that Claire is moving through things related to what's going on up here in this 10th house, and that might be a very necessary pin that's going to pull together everything that Claire could do in the realm of her personal life. Now, Claire has this very interesting stellium happening up here in Capricorn. Capricorn is the natural 10th sign, and the 10th cusp is falling into Capricorn. There's certainly an interweaving of 10th house and 9th house energy going on in the sign of Capricorn here. Now, I think it's important to say one thing that will cause a bit of a stir in the energy that's trying to flow through this chart is Mercury. And I'm sure that I've spoken to Claire about this before. We have here Pluto in the 7th in Scorpio. Pluto's dispositor is Mars in the sign of Gemini. Mars's dispositor is Mercury in the sign of Capricorn here. And by the Vedic concept of things, this Mercury here, we have what would be called in Vedic astrology, there's a certain Lajatadi Avashta happening here. Now, any planet that's with Saturn is going to have what we call some starvation. Saturn, even though they're so wide from each other, Saturn is in the same sign as this Mercury, so we would call it a Vedic conjunction. Now, when you have a planet like Mercury here, it's with Saturn, which is a malefic, and it is also with the North Node. A planet that's with a malefic and the North Node tends to experience what we would call shame. And so it's worth Claire, again, I'm sure I've spoken with Claire about this before, but for those who are watching live, just to see a little bit of this, we have a shamed planet, which is Mercury, that is working its way through this important sign of Capricorn, which is this 9th and 10th house anchor here. So communication and all the things that relate to Mercury Mercury is a very important planet for Taurus. It's the lord of the fifth natural house. It's ruling the second house and the natural fifth house, although the sixth cusp falls there as well. So this Mercury having this energy, it really shows that something that's going to be important for Claire is to communicate for herself. How does my relationships, my personal happiness relate to what's going on in my career? And is my career going to be a healthy synthesis of everything that's trying to come through my chart? Mercury, really, from the Vedic perspective, is one planet in this chart that shows the vulnerability, that shows a sore spot, a hole in the bucket. And so this is a point where I think Claire would do very well to recognize the importance of being centered on your communication, honesty. Mercury is very much a throat chakra phenomenon. It can relate to the root chakra as well. But when we can't, I always like to share, let's see, how would I do this? You can see on my desktop. I'm just going to take one moment to share my desktop. It's going to let me know it's not. Okay, fine. Either way, when you look at the zodiac, you can see Capricorn and Aquarius are at the root. And then we have Sagittarius and Pisces as the Svadhisthana chakra. We have Aries and Scorpio as the solar plexus. We have Taurus and Libra at the heart. We have Gemini and Virgo at the throat. And then we have Cancer and Leo at the spiritual chakra, at the Ajna chakra. So Gemini and Virgo here at the throat chakra is really the space where our spiritual desires get to be manifested through our voice and through creation. So especially, the moon, the south node being with the moon in Cancer here, there is a spiritual desire to connect the heart to the Capricorn karma that this person is experiencing. And like Timothy mentioned, it's amazing that we started with another person who is 1990. Because as Timothy mentioned, we all, especially in this area of time, it's a generational thing, a long-standing generational energy, where the south node of Pluto, the south node of Saturn, and the south node of Jupiter are all residing in Capricorn. So anybody who's got a lot of karma in Capricorn and Cancer, their individual evolutionary narrative is being permeated and entangled in the collective. So, and again, Timothy, he pulls a lot into this idea of, in today's time, with all this large, long-standing generational energy of the south node of Pluto, Saturn, and Jupiter, they're all residing in Capricorn. What this would signify is that our world kind of, I'm even going to share this way. Our world has a tendency to be in the military. I've got to impress everybody, this kind of Capricorn energy. And I always say, you don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. Capricorn energy is important for everybody. Even though the world is going through this gross experience of it, there is a need to come into Cancer, to come into the heart for everybody. And really, what I would say is happening for all of us in this in our world at the present time, but also especially for someone like Claire, who is bringing through the Cancer and Capricorn harmony here. There's a need to connect the root chakra of Saturn with the heart chakra and with this Ajna chakra. Cancer relates with the heart chakra as well as the Ajna chakra. All of the signs have different permutations for what chakras they relate with. But there's a need to bring in your root chakra in relationships, I see happening in this chart. It's basically the bringing together of this career stuff with the emotional reality. If you're so far into your career that you're not living a present-minded, grounded, emotional soul experience, then you are off balance. Conversely, if you chase emotions, if you chase relationships, I'm only going to be happy if I have a partner and they have to be this type of partner and they have to be perfect and I have to be perfect. And only then, once I get that figured out, then I can do my career. That's not really going to work out either. I think what has to be encouraged with a chart like this is that you've got to go through the pain of growing them both in the same process. Now, there's going to be times where life doesn't necessarily allow you to do that. And this is why my favorite mantra when it comes to remediations and astrology is the Ganesha mantra. The Ganesha mantra would go Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. Ga means light, na means sound. Ganapataye pataye is the transcendental overarching overseer of the light and the sound. It's really a matter of synthesis, is what Ganesha is referring to. In a case like this, we can see that there will be times when, right now, Claire, we know that you're moving into this space where you're exploring this new career. And your life is moving into this place where you're starting a new job. It's been a cult, as you've mentioned, it's a culmination of more than a few years. And it's an important transition. So, what I would always encourage, Claire, is that everything happens for a reason. I would be willing to bet that everything that you move into is your platform, is your opportunity to bring these things together. And you might even feel in this new career that it's hard to integrate and bring in the relationship energy that you seek to move through. Because I think that there would be in this chart a seeking to move through relationship energy. And with that being said, I think it's important for you to use your Mercury and to maybe even start to manifest for yourself when you have moments of meditation, when you have moments of clarity with yourself, maybe have a vision board, maybe have a journal, where you can constantly intone to yourself that it's important for me to balance my heart with my desire to be Capricornian. I have to balance my Cancerian desire to adapt my soul in a happy way with the Capricorn energy, with my future plans for career growth, for career progression, to to go farther in my career, to go farther in the work that I do in the world, and even tying into the ninth house energy of following my path, following my destiny. If I remember correctly, working with Claire, Claire is a very ambitious person who is very much oriented towards this ambition of role and career in society. I think that Mercury will be the one place where it's necessary for you to communicate. Communicate with your family, communicate with your friends, communicate with your work people, to use your throat to embody the vibratory message, to beat the drum of your authentic self and let it reverberate off the walls of your reality. That I'm looking to be happy in my soul, happy in my love life, happy in who I am while I manifest my ambitious career and the success that I seek to have in the world and in my role. Now I'm just about to ring a ding ding here. So that's 15 minutes for me. So I feel pretty good about, if I was to look at this chart, Mercury would be the one planet where I would say that it would be good for me to wink at you, Claire, and keep in mind that your communication, what you talk about, what you think about, and what you manifest through Mercury. Mercury is this manifestation planet. It is the one place where you could mistakenly allow whatever's off balance in your chart to become even more off balance by being willy-nilly about your speech, even being willy-nilly about your money, especially because Mercury rules the second and fifth house here. You have probably creative capacities to use your money and to orient your money, your voice, your communication about what you are moving towards. And so be mindful of that Mercury and allow yourself the space to manifest that peace that you do seek. You know, with this Jupiter in the fourth house, in the fifth house area, I think that there is a tie in here of this person to know the importance of that reflective bottom of the chart, of the Cancer, of the personal meaning in life. And so I think that, Claire, that you have this capacity. Mercury is the one place where, you know, if you think it's not a big deal to not speak your truth all the time, I'm winking at you as an astrologer and say that might be more important to you and to your destiny and to creating what you truly want in your heart. It might be more important for you than you're inclined to realize. Especially Saturn shaming the Mercury. It's possible that in your childhood, your parents, your caregivers would have said, "You'll be much more useful to us if you shut up. If you just stay quiet, you'll get much more from us from your early family. You'll have an easier time with us if you keep your voice quiet." And I would encourage you to recognize that this might feel awkward, but there's a lot of power there for unlocking the manifestation that you're probably seeking. And I would say it's especially in the emotional realm and in relationships and in your personal emotional realm. That would suffer, I think, before the career would. But they'll both suffer. If you don't have a happy emotional life, watch how your career will shudder. Now, so this was my 15-minute stewing together of what I see happening here in Claire's chart at the moment. Now, I hope that that was clear for you, Claire. Feel free to ask any questions, or if you have any thoughts, let us know. Now, maybe we'll have a little bit of an organic moment here. But Michael, when we say so, when you feel like it, we'll give you your
Ready?
15 minutes as well, right? You want to rock and roll?
Hey, some clarity for Claire.
Clarity for Claire. All right, buddy. Let's do it then, Michael, because I've gone for a while. I'm going to press the 15-minute timer, and Michael, I'd love to
Unshare
hear
so I
your
can
thoughts.
share.
Perfect. All right, so I'm going to stop sharing my screen now. Whenever you're ready, Michael, I'm ready to rock and roll, and you are.
Okay, so can you see it all?
Yep. Yep, we
Good.
can see you, pal.
So yeah, I generally agree with all that, of course. The things that I do want to add to that in terms of what Dustin was saying, in terms of the way I see this Saturn Capricorn, is because it's the North Node we're talking about here. Career is a evolutionarily positive place to focus the energy. And so it's good that you're being career oriented. But it is important to understand that that's not going, if it's out of balance with the emotional side, then that can be very stressful. But definitely coming out of the Cancerian shell into the world just by itself is evolutionary. I mentioned briefly earlier with the Pluto here and the descendant, there is the need to engage with power. And because it's opposite the ascendant on the descendant, there can be a tendency to give power away or look for power through others versus your own sense of power, which karmically can cause power struggles. So you have to be cautious of that. But when you do engage with your own power, it's a nice relationship with Saturn and the nodes, the sextile, that supports this career push, which is so obviously your karmic destiny with the Saturn North node right on the culminating in the chart on the MC. So that's a very strong. So it's great that you're focusing on the career. As I mentioned briefly, the timing around the beginning of the pandemic, I mean, the whole world went kablooey, but for your life, that was just stressful because it was on the Saturn, but it was also your Saturn return. And it was a time that life was consolidating for you and kind of pulling you towards your destiny and basically breaking down everything that was not appropriate for you. And as Dustin's mentioned earlier, around the nodes of Saturn and being connected to the greater whole, that's part of that. Like your soul is connected to that big transition in our world. Now that's a very Saturnian time. It's funny how we think of Saturn as being all about the corporate structure. We think of that because Saturn is about the building something that outlasts us. And to me, Saturn on a deeper level is to our children's children's children. It's things that outlast our personality. And with the Saturn Capricorn North node here, like there's such a drive to create something that is bigger than yourself. Now, moon is Cancer, and the moon here is the opposite of that, of like building one's home and one's family. But that's the south node. So there is a pull towards that, and there can be this, as Dustin was saying, a polarity there. But in this case, if you were to just focus on family and not career, that wouldn't be right for your soul, in my humble opinion. The pull is towards this building something bigger than yourself. And that's emphasized by this Pluto. This Pluto is really kind of, yeah, go for it, do it. Like, don't let things get in your way. Like, just take on that Taurus stubbornness and really like sink your teeth in and make it happen. There's this strong energy for that. Which at the same time, that's not easy. And there's a lot of challenge around this. And I do think there's some early childhood stuff here that's really connected to karmic wounds with the Chiron South Node, Cancer, fourth house. It doesn't smell of a happy childhood to me, or at least there's something hidden, uncomfortable, insecure. It's like all that Cancer moon just wants to be cozy with family, and then the Chiron there, it's like there's a wound. There's something that's very uncomfortable right where your soul wants to be most comfortable, the moon. And so that can cause a number of things. On the positive side, it pushes your energy to make something better. Capricorn, Saturn, like I'm going to do something that makes an impact in the world. And there can be a kind of unconscious hidden drive that can be too much sometimes because of that, like not trusting the coziness, even though there's such a desire for it. So there can be this weird push pull of wanting to kind of cozy in. It's not feeling comfortable, so pushing out, but then feeling that the longing for just being held. There could be a real energy here around this longing for the warm arms of mother that's not quite like a sick mother, like some kind of mother that's not quite fully comfortable for whatever reason. And this is not your mother's fault. It's not your fault. It's karmic. It's like it's here to kind of help you move forward, help you move out in the world, but you have to be careful that that doesn't become a blind escape drive to just never go there to that vulnerability. The vulnerability is important here as well and gives a deep understanding of um, the what can the deep inner discomfort and emotional pain that can be under the surface of somebody that can feel very out there and out in the world and successful and bright, Sagittarius, Sun and Venus and like the Mars in the first house. Uh, I know Dustin said this differently, but Mars likes to be in the first house.
Mhm.
It's it's connected to the sun. There is energy here. There's drive. It just can get scattered when it's like too reactionary, trying to jump out of this discomfort and move forward versus a more and this aligns very much with what Dustin's saying, like to move forward in the world. Yes, that's your destiny, but take care of the inner world too. Don't abandon it like maybe your mother abandoned you. Like on some level, there's this possibility of abandoning your inner self karmically. And so to be careful about that. And don't forget, you have a Cancer moon. Our moon is where we can feed ourselves. And with the Cancer, feeding ourselves can be a really important thing. But on the shadow of that, if you're not taking care of it, you can overfeed yourself. You can binge eat just to not deal with the emotion that can come up here. And how do you deal with that? Well, it's everything Dustin said about that Mercury. How do you express yourself? How do you allow yourself to be vulnerable as well as powerful? And the balance between power and vulnerability. And I would say within all this, an amazing ability to communicate and a need to communicate and to really lean into your communication with that Mars in Gemini and that Mercury opposite the moon and that Mercury being close to Uranus, which takes a kind of hard-headed Capricorn Mercury and opens it up into its place where it's most comfortable, which is Aquarius, that Uranian openness to new ideas. And Mercury can become alive with Uranus and can really break out of the boxes of the Taurus rising, the Capricorn energy, and even the Cancerian energy, where there can be this sort of I just got to grind through this, and then the Uranus is like, yeah, but if you just like do this shortcut, here's a great idea, try that. There can be and sometimes you don't even realize how smart you are until you share. It's like you can learn about yourself by sharing with others. And if that's too vulnerable, journaling is a really good, powerful thing for you to physically write Capricorn out your thoughts and to kind of and be crazy, be wild with them with the Uranus and Neptune. Like let yourself channel your intuition physically somehow. Maybe you need to go for a walk in nature and just let your mind go and then have like a recorder or a pen. A pen is good because of the physicalizing of your thoughts so that they don't just spin around. You can ruminate too much with Taurus rising, the Cancer moon, and the Mercury and all this and the Mars and Gemini, like your mind can just be and not go anywhere. And yet it wants to go somewhere. There is amazing information in there. If you don't overthink it, don't get into the analysis paralysis and allow your mind to have its moments of flashes of insight without second guessing them and without um, and so journaling, writing, being creative with the pen can be a great way to help your communication, help your Mercury come out and channel your feelings, and that'll really help you in your relationships, because then you can already have some clarity. But also really important to have good friends, people close to you that you can just chat with and just let your mind go. Um, be silly, have fun, let your communication fly, so as you can kind of go, oh wow, I just said that. Like, that's really interesting. You know, if you try and figure out what to say, it's going to be harder for you than to just watch insights come to you. And that can really help balance your emotions and realizing you're not as kind of messed up as sometimes you might think you are. That you can feel sometimes your feelings are so kind of opposed to your kind of destiny, and feeling like you've just got to put them aside, bury them, and get on with it. Or then they can come up and start working at you. Or even more uncomfortable, Pluto brings them in the mirror of your relationships and goes, hey, take a look at this. As somebody's coming at you with whatever they're coming at you, then you have to kind of go back and go, okay, is this just them, or is this a part of me I have pushed down and not let out, so as it's coming at me to engage with? Um, as I mentioned in the last reading, also with that strong energy on the descendant there. In this case, it's a bit more edgy because of the Pluto part. Now, don't think of that as all just power struggles, because it's not. It's also your power. And as you engage that, it gives you a sense of incredible, um, not just engage it, but you own it. You own your power. It can make you very influential with others. But if it's not in balance, sometimes others can find you really pushy too. So there's a balance, and you don't mean to. That's the thing. Like, you're a peaceful Taurus. I don't know if you're younger, so maybe you wouldn't remember this, but when I was growing up, there was a story called Ferdinand the Bull, and there was this. Um, it's about this friendly bull that just loves to smell the flowers, and all the other bulls want to go in the bullfights, and he's just looking at them kind of, I don't want to be a part of all that crap. And then the day the bullfighter comes to pick their thing, all the other bulls are like showing off, and Ferdinand's just chilling out under his favorite tree, smelling the flowers, but a bee stings his nose, and he's like, ah! And the bullfighter's like, that's my man, that's my bull. He's like, no, I don't want to go fight. But he's brought into the fight. Like, this is that Pluto opposite the Taurus. It's like it's pulling you into the fight when you don't want to be in the fight, and yet it's engaging your power. And so you can't ignore this. You have to kind of work with it and engage your power. And
I'm just going to let you know, Michael, not to the alarm has gone off. I'm
okay,
just letting you know so that you are just keeping time. That's
finish
all. But
off
you're doing great.
because so much to say. But the thing I really want to point out is also, over this past couple years, Uranus has just crossed the ascendant. Got this whole pile up of planets in your enormous 12th house. But this Uranus crossing the ascendant will have, on some level, triggered what I'm talking about in your life. And so, to look back over this last 2 year period and see like what you were up against, and kind of really kind of take a look at that and see how you can integrate that maybe. as well as with Uranus crossing the ascendant like this is like a whole new lease on life.
Mm.
You're coming into yourself in a way that you've never have before. And it's kind of breaking the old relationships and the old ways of doing things where it did force you to have to lay your power on the line and go, no, I don't want this. Yes, I want this. F you to whatever energy is holding you back because it's done. Uranus, but Taurus likes stability. So Uranus going over the ascendant is not easy. It's done now, so you can relax. You've been through the hardest, though sometimes fixed sign transits are a bit retrospective, so they sometimes take a bit of time to unravel and refocus because of the nature of the fixed sign. But you're well off. I mean, Uranus is uh, not going to go back there in your lifetime. So, but this whole who am I that question that this transit can bring up has been huge. And so you say you're starting a new career. This is perfect. There's a whole new energy happening at this time. Pluto has also been going over your north node. That's well done as well. Uh, but I can imagine the last few years have just been such a reorientation of your energy. And I do feel the career path is the place to place your energy to move it forward. And I think you're going to be doing really well with that, even though it can feel like this is all very new and that is you're kind of like a baby starting into something like it's very fresh, like the Uranus over the ascendant's left you kind of like, who am I? Like I'm this new thing now, and it's maybe a bit more vulnerable. Mars going through Cancer for the last 6 months, going over your Cancer stuff has been like, whoa, like really digging up all that old Cancer wound stuff too. So there could have been a real vulnerability over the last 6 months that can have been really, again, echoing what I've been saying around, how do you engage your power and what do you want and what do you not want, and where you can maybe, where do you feel safe? With Mars going over your Cancer, like it did not feel safe, and you have to find it within yourself. Um, it's now left and it's quickly moving on, but Mars was in this area of Cancer for like almost 6 months, like just churning away on it.
Mm.
And last fall, Pluto was there as well, and big, big, big shifts and engaging with your power. And yeah, it feels like a really good time for new career stuff to start to really find a footing after all this kind of um, shake up in your life. I'll leave it there for now.
Beautiful, Michael. Wonderful job. There's so many things that I'm listening to you, and it always reminds me how much experience you have with astrology, because for me, we're both such astrology nerds, and there's so many things that I speak to, but I love bringing Michael on because Michael has a lot of experience with astrology. Michael has been reading charts for probably decades now at this point, right? So to have that experience is just an amazing thing. To kind of peel beyond theory and to bring such practical things into the fore. I really love what you've spoken to. I really resonated what I see in this chart with what you mentioned as this possibility of Claire abandoning the inner self. There's work with the mother complex, with Cancer, with the bottom of the chart, ignoring your inner self in order to just do what Claire thinks she has to do. But that inner self is important. Uh, it's interesting that with Uranus and Taurus, one thing that what came to my head while you were mentioning it, because I loved how you said, amazing, Claire's giving us some wonderful little comments. I'm going to speak to them in a moment. You mentioned when Uranus is going through Taurus, Taurus likes to keep things stable, likes things to be the same. And so Uranus coming through Taurus is going to have some discomforting change. But as I often like to say, whenever any planet is moving through the chart, astrology is a clock. That's all astrology is. And when when the minute hand or the hour hand is coming up to its point, we can all feel 5 o'clock coming up. We can all feel the hour coming up. So I often say, this is just I got a lot of Saturn in my chart, and this is how I often think about it. Is when we go to the bathroom, do we go to the bathroom because Saturn is above us at the noon position? No, we go to the bathroom because we haven't gone to the bathroom in this much time. In the same way, when Uranus is going through Taurus, it's because Uranus has not gone through Taurus in the soul for however much time. So while it's uncomfortable to move through the instability of Uranus moving through a Taurus rising ascendant, what Uranus is probably doing is bringing even more stability. But you have to go through this shakeup in order to come into what is a deeper stability, what is a deeper thing that the Taurus ascendant truly wants. And it'll feel fresh. It'll feel like a brand new baby energy, being so newly into this new horizon of the Uranus and the ascendant. But I think that especially also the Uranus coming up to the natal Mars. When Barbeau's basket happens, that's when Uranus will be at the beginning of Gemini. Neptune will begin to be at the beginning of Aries, and Pluto will be at the beginning of Aquarius. This will be a time when that Uranus is really tapping into this Mars here, while Pluto is still finishing off what it's done in the last of Capricorn throughout the COVID period.
Yeah,
So
I'm just
this
going to
could,
project.
yeah,
That's going to be, you're going to rock that period. That's going to,
yeah, that's what I read too.
yeah.
Amazing, Michael. So now I want to speak to what Claire has said here. New beginning and reorientation was so accurate. Claire's appreciating the advice. Amazing. And of course, Irene and Silver are being my amazing crew.
I'm just
Uh,
going to just sort of quickly add to what you just said because
please.
you're probably going to say more, but it
No,
is
I'm just, go ahead.
important because over the next few years and in a year and a half's time, we're going to have this Pluto, Uranus, and Neptune all together around 4 degrees, including that basically right on your Mars. And Mars being in the first house, it's so important for you. It's to me that all the stuff you've been going through that's been kind of intense and a bit of a slog, it you'll be amazed at how quickly things can suddenly lift over the next couple of years if you just grab your energy and power and run with it.
Mm.
Opportunities can really show up and there can be a real zeitgeist for you that you're connected to the times and have something to engage with around that and understand the needs of this time in a way that really helps propel you forward.
Mm. Another one of these indications of the personal evolutionary narrative is entangled in the collective
Mm.
evolutionary narrative. It's a pretty wide basket, so lots of people are probably going to feel this to some degree, but it's especially people with important significations in the early degrees of Gemini, the early degrees of Aquarius, and the early degrees of Aries, which we see Claire's got her Mars there in Gemini, as well as really, Pluto is really going to be tinging along with the North Node, especially in Capricorn here. Even though you've probably gone through the heaviest parts of that work, like the pandemic recently probably was a lot of that work for Claire. And so now things are reorienting. The world is in Pluto and Aquarius now. So the foundations that were swept and the cobwebs that were swept in that period were probably also swept for Claire's ability to climb into the ambitious thing that Claire is moving into as well. So I'm very hopeful for Claire. And Claire, my dear, I'm so glad to be seeing you hanging out with us here and everybody here. We've had quite a few people here live with us. Michael, do you have any other thoughts on the present chart that we've done here today?
I think we're good. I do feel compelled to say that I would be happy to do 10 minutes on Irene, that
Amazing.
she kind of got missed on that first round, so I think she deserves it, and she made that
How
request.
sweet of you, Michael. You know, I didn't want to impress that on you, uh, but I'm sure Irene would appreciate it, and she looks like she's happy to. So, Michael, I'm here with you, pal. I mean, I'm okay for time, but I'm going to be mindful of your time.
Yeah.
But God bless you. I'm sure Irene is going to be happy.
Will you talk for a little moment as I do up her chart?
Sounds great. I should say Irene has done a lot of work, given me a lot of support in my channel over this time. So I'm giving you a high etheric 5 through the ether, Michael, because Irene does deserve it. Now, while Michael gets Irene's chart ready,
So Union SC, what's that? Where's that?
Union SC. So yeah, why don't you let us know, Irene? I
South
probably be
Carolina or
South Carolina, maybe. Yeah, South Carolina.
okay.
So let's see, Irene Mack. Yeah, I've got her as Union, South Carolina. Gotcha. So for everybody who has been watching today, if you're just kind of tuning in, this is going to be our final little reading for the day. We've chosen everybody, and Irene did in fact make a generous donation to our cause today. We have been doing a fundraiser for the Indigenous Medicine Conservation Fund. Now, Claire was our last volunteer. Claire volunteered her chart. And so thank you very much, Claire. Thank you to Claire for volunteering your chart, for making the donation that you did, and volunteering your time. For everybody who's been watching live, this has been good for what we're doing here. And now our last person for the show today, Irene was the fourth person to do the donation today. So uh, next time I'm gonna have to try and get Skyrim Swifty. Bless her heart. She also made a donation as well. So thank you to everybody who donated. I'm happy to be giving Irene Mack a little bit of a reading here before we call her quits today by Michael's very kind suggestion. Now, how you doing, Michael? Are you revved up and have you got everything ready? Not to rush you, of course.
Uh, no, I'm just finishing.
Okay.
I've got Ascendant of 1947 Cancer. Does that sound
Yep.
about
Yep. That's pretty much what I got too.
okay? Good, good. So I will be ready in a second.
Of course. So, and I'll say again, thank you to everybody who's been doing this with us. For everybody who's interested, we're going to be doing more of these probably quarterly. So watch out for July of 2025. We're probably going to bring more astrologers like this together to do another fundraiser like this. So keep that in mind.
Okay.
Now I'm with you, Michael, and I should say I'm also glad that you get to also have a turn at taking the wheel first. So
All
I,
good.
yeah, I'd love to hear what you have to say about Irene, pal.
Okay, well, I have not even looked at it yet, so let's take a look at it together.
Amazing.
Always fun.
Mm.
So I know people here are astrologers, so I will mention a little bit about where I'm getting stuff, just as a training purposes.
Beautiful.
The first thing of note just jumps out at me here. We got more Gemini, so we got the sun. Make sure we got June 1st, 1983, 9:12 a.m. Looks good.
June 1st, 1983, 9:12 a.m.
Okay.
Yep. Yep.
So yeah, this very close Sun Mars conjunction in Gemini in the 11th, like powerhouse there.
They're almost Kazemi.
Yeah, well, I would say there pretty much are
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
a degree. Um, and then Venus rising in Cancer pops out, and of course this Jupiter Uranus conjunction in Sag. That's really got some juicy stuff. Neptune on the south node. Um, a Pluto Saturn conjunction, very strong. So lots to work with here. Um, so first and foremost, we got Gemini, Sun, Mars with an Aquarius moon. So like just lots of air, intellectual, smart energy that wants to direct somewhere. Um, and it's above the horizon, and we've got the Gemini North Node, which is interesting because we've got all this Gemini, but the North Node in Gemini, and from my perspective in the 12th, means even though it's so strong, it can be a little bit scattered, a little bit uncomfortable. And so it tends to go back towards Sagittarius, where we have Neptune. Plus, we have the strong Jupiter-Uranus conjunction. So the Sagittarian energy is actually kind of pulling this chart, even though it's such a strong conjunction in Gemini. The Sagittarius really rules it, at least from inside, and is both a talent and a curse. So the talent part is very intuitive ideas and spiritual connections and being very in tune with energy and possibility and what is possible and having this broad picture of life and how it's more than just the material world, that there's this spiritual attunement that's very natural and hungry for it, wanting to know more and wanting to get into more, and just, you know, that the constant learning energy here that wants to grow. It's like, give me more. I want to grow. And so much to share because of that, because it's like there's an intuitive grok, if you remember from Stranger in a Strange Land, the idea to just grok something, to get it quickly. With the Gemini, with the Aquarius moon, and the Libra down here, like the grokking quality of just getting stuff quickly is super strong. And this person can be in a conversation about something they don't know anything about and hear other people talk about it and plug in as if they know what they're talking about. And in some ways, they do on an intuitive level. Like they can pick up information and ideas and concepts so quickly that there can be such a, um, but they can, so, and this is a real gift, but it can also get in the way because Gemini wants to get focused. It wants to kind of have the ability to then communicate that with others. And the big picture Sag can be over the top, and the Gemini can be frustrating. Like, I don't want to get small. I don't want to get in the details. I don't want to have to slow down in order to get my words out. And so there can be a challenge with the North Node and Gemini here, increased by the need for Gemini of having to focus the thoughts and get them in a quality that can reach other people. So it's not just this out of the box big ideas and bringing them down the funnel into something that can be communicated. And that's emphasized too by the 11th house stellium here, where the need to reach your people, to reach your community, to connect with others. And in order to connect with others, you have to bring the thoughts down into pointed form. Um, and then the Mars Sun, when you do that, it can be very strong. It can be very pointed, very clear, but it can be uncomfortable to have to do it. The Neptune on the south node is just, I want to stay in the realm of possibility. Don't make me get focused. Like, I don't want to be a politician. I just want to be like ideas. Like, I don't want to be focused. I don't want to be in the details. And yet the details are super important here to bring the big message into something. And also, I would say having to learn how to dumb it down a bit. You know, Moon and Aquarius with all this, like, can be super smart and super out of the box and just sees things in a brilliant kind of way. And then how do you dumb this down to reach your people? This is somebody that needs to learn about niching and how to reach her people and how to get it focused on a more simple level than the big picture, but still recognize the big picture is such a talent. Jupiter, Uranus, and Sag, like such a ideas and the spark of interest of how to connect to these bigger picture ideas. And we also mentioned earlier, like, these transits coming up, they're going to spark off this Jupiter-Uranus conjunction in a couple of years. And so there's something to say. There's something to add to teach, to share, but the challenge is how do you you don't want to be a heady professor. You want to kind of come into the trenches and teach in a practical form. And that's the challenge here. Now, your Venus Cancer rising really helps with this. So it's a bit of a strange thing because the whole chart is all this fire and air, or I should say air and fire. And then all of a sudden you've got Cancer rising and Cancer Venus, which is so different. Who you appear to be on the outside world is not really what's going on. Like, you can be very Venus rising, hard on your sleeve, very just loving and but also a bit private, maybe a bit you're kind of very open at the same time, bit cautious of that. With the Cancer rising can be a bit of both. Like, it can be really open when it's safe, but it can also be very more introverted seeming. And yet this is like such an extroverted, like, I want to share energy happening here. It's so strong. And so there can be a bit of a discomfort with yourself of how do you come into the world and share all this sort of buzzing information and energy. And energy is a key word here. I mean, the sun Mars is a very strong conjunction in terms of feeling pure vital energy. But in Gemini, it's a bit scattered. And then the Neptune on the south node can also be a bit scattered. So, like, you can burn up pretty quickly and get sort of scattered. I wouldn't know if you would call it tired exactly, but burnt out, and needing to kind of regroup your energy regularly, needing to grounding your energy to come back to yourself, not be so plugged into everything all the time and trying to pull it all together, and finding like your tribe, your focus, your people, and your particular talent and your particular message here. It's with all this communicative energy, you got Mercury and Taurus, which is very kind of, it can actually help ground it. And similar to the last reading, it's like, how do you physicalize all this mental energy with the Mercury in an earth sign? So writing about it, writing can be really key here. to be able to slow down in order to write might be a really useful exercise and might be how you actually approach funneling down all this big ideas into something. Whether it's like writing is in a journal for yourself or creating courses for others where you're forced to kind of pull things together in a kind of detailed step-by-step process, which can be very uncomfortable but very rewarding for you. You know, Mercury is in a beautiful sextile to the ascendant, so it helps pull in the Cancer rising, which brings in the emotionality and the heart and the I want to help people. I'm here to help people. Venus rising on Cancer, like that's what you're here for. You want to help people and you want to do it through the mind and through ideas. But it needs grounding. It needs to be kind of grounding to pull it together. And so I'm noticing comments flying by here. So I'm just going to quickly see if there's anything specific.
Yeah.
I want linear energy, but it's hard for me. Yes, it is hard for you. It's genuinely hard. But it is something that's important to find your way of doing it. And the best way is really is finding with that Mercury and Taurus and the Gemini, like it's discerning what's the most important thing in each moment, not trying to do it all the time. There's a movie that came out recently, Everything Everywhere All at Once. Like kind of reminds me of part of this chart. Like
Yeah.
and how that can go wrong if you're trying to just do that. Like it's to teach your soul, it's okay to focus on one thing at a time, to not leave a broken trail of unfinished things that make you feel insecure because you're kind of feeling like you're not very capable, and yet you're incredibly capable. You're incredibly smart. And you can find shortcuts, yes, but don't overdo that to the point where you get discombobulated. Like it's better to kind of finish one thing at a time. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just getting having a list. List is super important for you with like Mercury and Taurus to just, okay, I'm going to write out like the most important things and just and every little thing so you can check them off and go, okay, I did that. Kind of helps ground this chart. Um, grounding can be a little challenging with Chiron and Taurus there. But that also helps the teacher part of you come through. Um, it's a bit of a challenge with like the 28 degrees Neptune, 28 degrees Chiron, but they're 150-degree quincunx, so they're fighting on each other. It's a bit uncomfortable to be the teacher, to kind of really engage with that energy, but boy, do you crave it. Your soul craves it, not necessarily your mind. And to be able to bring your ideas into some form that's helping the world, helping the community, the 11th house. Really, could be good to work at things where you're in intellectual service. So like, part of a NGO or part of a something where you feel like you're serving others with your mind and coming up with good ideas. Coaching is a definite possibility with this chart. Or maybe being here, maybe you're interested in astrology with this Jupiter-Uranus conjunction in the South Node. If you're following astrology path, like that would be part of that too, like finding distilling it down to your thing and not trying to be everything. And using your intuition, trusting your intuition, but having the nice thing about astrology for you is it has that grounded intellectual. You pick your kind of path. Don't try and study every part of astrology that could scatter your poor, brilliant mind that wants to piece it all together, which is great. And Dustin and I are kind of passionate about that. But you want to be careful about too soon trying to pull it all together and finding your voice in it and your trusting your intuition while having like the grounded intellect, the grounded chart to focus your mind and finding your um, ability, to help others with your mind and trust your, those things that you might find are kind of wild and out there in other situations, or might cause problems day to day. If you trust your wild intuitive guidance in a reading, the thing that you might be uncomfortable to say, or you're not sure whether you should say it, and generally speaking, you're going to nail something. Like you have that in you. And that Mars, Sun, being quick with it, but also being able to be quick when you're wrong too. You're not always right. The Sagittarius side can sometimes always think it's right. And to Gemini is all about listening. So learning how to listen is another part of your key thing. And that's where the Cancer rising really helps. So just to listen, trust in being quiet and listening, and then your guidance comes through and you can nail pithy statements that can really help people. 11th house, Sun, Mars, and push people too, wake people up, kind of with some uh, new thoughts, new ideas, new approaches, new ways of kind of doing things, laying a kind of seed for them, kick their ass a little bit, but don't. It's like believe in your intuition, know that it's a real talent, but don't get overly invested in proving it. Learn to let it be mutable, for lack of a better word, these mutable signs, to listen, to allow it to be honed in. And you really have a talent there with that. And then there's so much to say here, but the last thing I'll kind of point out is like this pattern.
That's your
Pluto.
15-minute mark there, Mike. I'm just letting
Perfect.
you know that again,
Perfect.
not to
Yeah.
rush you.
Yeah. Well, I'm just feeling that too. But the Saturn Pluto with the trine to the Venus there is really nice. Or not, sorry, that's not a trine. Um, Square. So that's not so nice. But it's very powerful. On its best side, it really gives you depth and a real understanding of the challenges that people have in life. But it also the it tracks some challenges in relationships, and there was probably some early childhood challenges with father, maybe, or maybe your father and mother are not getting along, or something where there's just an internal karmic sense of how do you work with other people and deal. I'd say this is an important thing. How do you deal with differences of opinion? Because that Sagittarius has such a strong ideal of what things should be, could be, but other people have a different opinion, and that's not always bad. And so Gemini is learning how to hear the other side. And with this square, that's emphasized. Like, how do you hold the other side to your awareness and really have your clear, strong awareness, but also hold the other side and be able to listen and kind of find ways to bridge that gap is going to be part of your life challenge in relationship in particular. So your personal relationships are going to bring that up, that you're not always right, but you are always right. It's like you can have your sense of intuitive understanding, but don't hold a stance. Keep yourself open to the magic of when you don't have to force somebody to get a message, Mars Sun, but are open to just hearing, debating, bouncing things off, learning, growing. There's a magic that can unfolds that can really feed your soul of like understanding things with deeper and deeper complexity, and also bringing your complex ideas down into more and more simple so as you can reach people, and allowing the challenges and relationships to help you do that, not avoid relationship because they're challenging.
Amazing. Oh, it is so cool to see you do your thing, Michael. And I think everyone in the chat box is really going nuts over you here.
Just to let you know, normally a reading with me is 2 hours, so like it's like trying to be squeeze in so much, right?
Well, I think I was telling everybody that you can tell that I mean, obviously, Michael, I'm going to get you to put in I'm going to get you to plug in your information because Irene mentioned that she would be even interested in doing a reading with you.
Sure.
But for everybody who enjoys Michael's work, let's do it now. Michael is going to input his information, his contact information into the chat box here for anybody who would be interested in getting Michael's work. What's amazing about Michael is that he's rock and roll. He has the Western take where he goes right into it and explains it in a way that we all know as people who are in the tropical sphere. So now I think Irene would like to ask you a question, Michael, while we've got you here. Are you okay for one question, Michael?
I'm good.
Okay. All right, Irene, feel
I
free
didn't
to
ask
shoot.
before. I just dove in.
Yeah, for sure. Well, it's amazing because, anything that you share is awesome for us astrologers who are interested in seeing what would Michael say about this chart.
Mm,
It's never going to be bad information. It's always going to be useful. So, Irene, feel free to ask your question.
yeah.
And, I'm very glad to have heard Michael dip into his thing. I've written my notes and I almost, I got some things that I'm going to be piggybacking off you because I loved all your thoughts. But I almost want to see how I'd like to see what Irene might have to ask
Neptune in the sixth, conjunct South Node. Yeah, okay, it's a good question.
in the
So
Neptune house.
yeah, so I kind of I spoke to that without specifically speaking to it because so I've already stated that, but it is always very interesting and powerful when you have aspects of the South Node on the North Node and vice versa, because it means in this case that you're not meant to just leave your Sag behind and get into Gemini and that's it. You need both. And so when I was talking about like learning to focus and funnel your energy and get simple, another thing would be chop wood, carry water rather than just meditate. Like the need for the simple things in life, yet at the same time staying open to the magic of the broadness of Sagittarius, the spirituality of it. So the Neptune on the south node in Sagittarius here, but it's in the sixth. So one of the things, but you're moving into what some people would say is Neptune's house. I don't look at it quite like that, but still, there is this quality of you're moving into the Gemini, but the Sag is such an important part of your chart. And so you're not leaving that behind, you're just honing it in. And
Integrating them.
the last, the thing I would say about that specifically is don't be so hard on yourself. That is like the underlying thing here, where that Neptune South Node sixth house, where you can be so critical on yourself and maybe even on those close to you because of it, where you want to fix things. You want to fix yourself. You want to be perfect. You want to be ideal. And you want those close to you to be that way in an unconscious way too, which can be hard on them. And then the sun, Mars, can come out and sometimes say things you don't really mean to say. You don't want to be so sharp, but it comes out like you get so intent on wanting to fix things. And so the Gemini And the 12th is really asking you to listen and surrender and not always having to work so hard to fix everything. Let things just be. You can still have your insights, but also let people be, let yourself be, allow the insight to come through in a gentler way versus letting go of the self-criticism that that sixth house can intrinsically create, which blocks people from hearing you and blocks the true message from coming through sometimes, and
Beautiful.
can let you, it can also, the what that will create in you is confusion. That's the simplest thing. When you get too self-critical and you second guess yourself, the confusion sets in. And when that happens, you just got to unplug, stop having so much pressure, and just go for a walk. Sag loves nature, loves the broad horizon. Um, you know, climb the nearest, tallest hill around and just look at the horizon and just feel space externally with that moon in Aquarius. And, there's so much more we could say, with that moon in the eighth house, blah, blah, blah. But can't go there now.
Yeah, but amazing though, Michael. I'm glad that you gave a little bit of space to mention what Irene had asked about.
The art
I
of what helps. Yes, it does, for
for
sure.
sure, for sure. I really see that it's interesting that I think that this, with the North Node in Gemini in that 12th house, there probably will be an experience of, I almost see that people probably would be well served to hear Irene's sixth house energy, which can be a little bit of like having to fix something in the room. People say that Virgo in the sixth house energy is neurotic. It's like, oh, why did you have to fix that thing? Why couldn't you have just let it go?
But it's also so good at honing in on what's needing fixing. It's
Totally. No one's
so
going to fix it if Virgo isn't in the room to do it. So I love that you put out this point that one of the critical things energetically with that South Node with Neptune in that sixth house is a feeling of I'm being too nitpicky. And ironically, that when Neptune moves into its best space, it's going to do what it is without that self-obstruction.
Yeah, I mentioned earlier, like coaching is like a really good thing for this chart. Like, and I think that's a really good place because it allows that energy focus. So whether it's astrological coaching or just some sort of stepping into a situation, seeing the big picture, helping hone others down into the essential parts and communicating that to them as a career would be very useful because it also helps Irene work her energy, work her magic.
And
There's
get her fingers
ruling
into
the
it.
10th, that that coming into a situation, quickly making a statement about it, doing something that shakes things up, and then getting out and moving into something else, like never just doing a boring, stable job. Like, not going to happen with this chart. Like, there needs to be dynamicism and movement and jumping in and jumping out, and to be able to utilize that in a positive way where you can get paid for it so you can chill out in your day-to-day life.
Mm. It's funny. There's sort of a dual need to be open to moving, but also to narrow and funnel the Sagittarian energy into that specific, something that I've kind of written here is that if you're reading books about plants, you're reading about all the different types of plants. At some point, you've just got to plant a piece of broccoli and observe how just broccoli works. How is broccoli going to grow? You've read all about these things, but now you are in the energetic relationship with a narrowed single form.
Mm.
It's kind of a need to teach that infinite wisdom of Sagittarius to the specific case
Yeah.
through that Gemini. And I think that's a great idea that this kind of counseling, the stuff that we do is it seems like something that would be good for Irene.
Yep.
Irene is moving through her mid 40s right now. So she is going to have some of this. The North Node is going to be maturing, as we would say in the Vedic sense.
Mm-hmm.
As well, she's going to be having her Uranus opposition happening soon. So this was probably a good time to come into, especially because Uranus is in Sagittarius there. So this would be a good time to make peace with this overarching wisdom, but funneling it into something that you can specifically practically give and share to people and to enjoy doing it in this way. But Michael, you have such a way of tapping into the core. I've done work with Irene, and it's amazing for me to watch you do your thing and go, oh, wow, you just picked it all up. I love working with you, Michael, and that's why I'm very glad to have you here. Now, we've gone quite a bit today, everybody. Now, Michael, I wonder, I'm not sure if you did put your plug into the chat yet, but
I
now
did.
I think, do you have any other
Got
thoughts?
Irene going.
Yeah, of course. Amazing.
So it's way back there. I can do it again.
Oh, you did. Gotcha. So if you could, let's do it now while we're at the end of the video here. No, that's okay, Irene. We love that you.
Of course, you can't help it. We see your chart. We know.
We see it and we love it.
We understand.
So, Irene, my dear, thank you so much for being a part of this experience. I'm glad Teresa's digging the Pink Floyd shirt. Irene, my dear, thank you for volunteering your chart and for donating as well. Now, for everybody who's interested, our fellow Michael here is going to plug in his information. Now, Michael is the Temple of Sound. Michael does much work, and you would be able to find him through his email as well as through his website. Now, for everybody watching, we do appreciate you all being here. I want to make sure that my YouTube chat isn't kicking out your plug that you put in, Michael.
Oh yeah, it could because I'm putting websites and things.
That's a possibility. So why don't you, just in case it is, why don't you voice it for us, Michael? Are you going to go through email or a website or both?
So you can always find me through my website, which is thetempleofsound.com.
.com. So that's the templeofsound.com.
And the email is thetempleofsound@yahoo.com.
Perfect. Now I've got them in here. So did you type them in the comments, Michael?
I did.
Okay, so they didn't come up. So now I know that for the future. For whatever reason, maybe I've got to give you permission or something.
It's fine.
Okay, good.
Yes, we're both musicians, astrologers.
Yeah, no kidding, eh? So it helps. I find music is such a wonderful way the stars are like a music, and we all got to get in time, you know?
And if you click on my links to any of my comments there, you will find my YouTube channel. You could like and subscribe and all that stuff. And I put up astrology. I don't play the game of putting them up once a week, but whenever there's something super important, I'll do a big expose on it. And I put up music and concerts and all kinds of stuff.
So is that Michael? I believe it was Michael Moon is your astrology chart. Or I mean, excuse me, my brain right now. Your YouTube channel.
Well, it's the Temple of Sound, but
so it is. Gotcha.
These days you can't really find it that way. It's strange. But anyway, I just put a link. Hopefully you'll see that.
Oh, I see. So Michael Moon. Wonderful. Okay. It looks like everybody loved having you, Michael.
Yeah, well, love to be here. Nice to meet you all.
Right. So for anybody who's interested in contacting for Michael further, you can feel free to get in touch with him through the links that we've given, thetempleofsound.com. Now let's have one more thank you as well to our boy Timothy Halloran from Rasalila Healing. He came in and I should say this to you too, Michael. I did this in pretty a Sagittarian sense of short notice, as I like to say. But Michael still came in. He had nothing but a few days, and he said, "Let's do it." And he's made time for us to come here today. So, thank you so much, Michael, for sharing.
I love to improv,
your expertise and your improvisational skills. You did amazing, pal. So, There will be more of these to come, ladies and gentlemen. We will certainly see Michael Moon again, if that all goes well in his plan, and if we have the luck to have you on again, Michael.
Yeah, maybe you should share the expose we did a couple years ago on the current astrology.
Absolutely. So me and Michael did a video. I wonder if I'd be able to find it on here. If you go on my YouTube channel and you look up Dustin Cormier, Michael Moon, I wonder if I can quickly find it on here. Anything that I ever do, you can always find, oh, we got it right here. In fact, I think that I gave that to Nadia Shaw's channel, which is cool because Nadia Shaw is a sweetheart in herself. So if anybody's interested, you can go and you can look up patterns of historical shift in coming planetary transits with Dustin Cormier and Michael Moon. We really went in deep there and we talked about all things from Pluto moving through Capricorn, Capricorn being where Pluto's south node is, this relating to the world shakeup that happened during the pandemic, and what is happening further from there, including Barbeau's basket, which is, of course, Pluto in Aquarius, Uranus in Gemini, trine, and then Neptune at the first degrees of Aries. They're creating a sort of a basket happening there. And the handle of that basket's on the first degree of Libra. There's no planets there, but anybody with planets there is going to feel the pull from that basket. We went into really great detail into that video. So if anyone's interested in doing a little digging there, I recommend that you check out that video. It was a lot of fun that me and Michael did there.
I just shared a link of a video I did on the this next couple of years, just in case anyone's interested. Hopefully it shows up.
So you shared a link, you say? You know,
Yeah.
I hate to say it, but it is kicking it, as Mo has said. Story
Well,
of my life. So,
it's a
uh,
YouTube link. But anyway,
well, what you could do, Michael, is you send it to me in the chat of our Zoom, and I can take it and slap it on there if you feel like it.
not sure how to do that because I'm working
That's
on
okay.
computers. Not
No
that
problem.
important. Just go to my channel. You'll look it up.
Perfect, perfect. So Michael Moon's channel has got all the goods. So everybody, this has been a wonderful time. And thank you to
I want to
Michael.
add to Irene's comment about expressing the feminine side of Capricorn. Capricorn is a feminine sign.
Yes.
Don't forget.
Yeah, I think
Like
people tend
we
to.
are very mistaken around Capricorn in our modern culture, kind of putting it into the corporate structure. It is about creating something beyond ourselves. What we often think of is we get Saturn and Jupiter mixed up sometimes because that bigger, take over the world energy is Jupiter, not Saturn.
Right, right. You know, and I think that people think Saturn is daddy when it is always going to be a little bit of the parent, both of the
Parents.
parental energies, and Capricorn in particular is
Well,
going to have that feminine expression of it.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Feminine isn't all soft, you know.
For sure, for sure. So, you know, that's the Saturn is really, I'm such a fan of Saturn. I have a good Saturn in my chart by my own regard. So, thank you again, everybody. Now, we could all hang out here forever, and there will be more times to be hanging out. Now, let's give one last shout out to, let's see if I can get this going on here. For everybody who's been watching, again, we have been doing today a fundraiser for the Indigenous Medicine Conservation Fund. This is coming into right relationship with the indigenous peoples who have shared the medicine of countless generations that have taken so long for the earth and the people in connection with the earth to generate. This is a fundraiser that I'm very passionate about. And so thank you very, very much to all of our people who have donated today and everybody who's just been here and absorbed the consciousness of this very important article in today's time. I'm very glad to be being a part of this important project that's being done in the United States and in South America. And for everybody joining us live, you know, I've always got such a warm crowd of people who are supporting my channel here. Thank you to Michael Moon. Thank you to Timothy Halloran for joining us, and for everybody. It's been a great time. Keep your eyes out in July. We're probably going to be doing something like this again. So thanks, Michael, buddy. Thank you so
Yep.
much for being a part of this.
My pleasure.
Now, Michael,
Nice to meet you all. Oh yeah.
well, I was just gonna say, if you like, you and I can just do a hello. We've both taken
Sure.
a lot of our time, so let's. I'll end the YouTube video, and then you and I could say goodbye. What do you
Sounds
think
good.
about that? Okay.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. Keep your eyes on the skies, and I'll see you guys again soon for more astrology adventures. Thanks, Mo, Sandra, Irene, Teresa, Silber, and everyone who's been hanging out, and to all our donators. We'll see you guys again.